In the Lin residence. In the Lin residence. The sun had risen. The door to Long Fei's courtyard was still closed. Lin Fenglei had arrived early in the morning, and seeing that the gate of the courtyard was shut tight and did not dare to disturb him, he did not dare to disturb his rest. After all, after the massacre the day before, half of the Neon City had rivers of blood. He was the only one who had experienced all these, and fear existed in his heart towards Long Fei. It's not open yet. Lin Yuantu also walked over. Lin Fenglei nodded and replied, Amen. I have already waited here for more than 2 hours. There is no sound coming from the courtyard. I don't know if I am resting or... He didn't finish his sentence, but his hands tightened into fists. Lin Fenglei really hoped that Long Fei would represent the Lin family and fight. Only then would Long Fei be able to suppress everything. If Long Fei does not fight, forget about the Neon City tournament this time. Perhaps his Lin family would be the one to blame for the massacre of the dozen or so families. This time, the Lin family really stood at the gates of hell. The one who decided the Lin family's life and death was Long Fei. If Long Fei had left the Lin family last night, Lin Fenglei did not dare think about it. If he did, the consequences would be too serious, and the Lin family would definitely not be able to take it. His eyes tensed up, but he could not help but say, Big brother, could it be that he left? This was what he was most worried about. Lin Yuantu also frowned slightly. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was actually a bit nervous in his heart. Looking at the tightly shut gate in the courtyard, he said, If he wants to leave, we can't stop him either. Lin Fenglei said, Big brother, if he leaves, then this Neon City competition will not be a competition anymore. It will become a Lin family extermination assembly. Yesterday's incident has already caused the remaining families to band together to oppress our Lin family. If he is not here, no one can stop him. I'm worried right now. The more Lin Fenglei said, the more worried he became. Long Fei ran, and the Lin family fell into the abyss. Lin Yuantu heaved a sigh of relief, looked at the sky, and said, If that's the case, then this might be the Lin family's life. Lin Fenglei said, Big brother, should I go in and take a look? As he spoke, he moved forward. Just as he was about to knock on the door, Lin Yuantu called out to him, Third brother, don't go. Lin Fenglei said, Big brother, what if he overslept? Powerhouse overslept. This kind of situation didn't even exist. Lin Yuantu said, His world is different from ours. We cannot disturb him. It is our Lin family's fortune to be able to help the Lin family fight. If he does not fight, we cannot force him. But, Lin Fenglei panicked. Lin Yuantu said, No buts. We can't disturb him. At this time, a disciple walked up and said, Patriarch, third elder, it's time. We're about to set off. The Neon City's competition arena was an empty area in the north of the city, a small-sized fighting arena. Every year, there would be time to enter the competition. Lin Yuantu nodded and said, All right, I understand. You can go now. And then, he looked at Lin Fenglei and said, OL3, it's about time. Let's enter the arena. Lin Fenglei looked at the little courtyard door and grinded his teeth. He really wanted to shout loudly, but in the end, he endured it and sighed lightly, ah. With large strides, he walked to Lin Yuantu's side and said, Big brother, today's competition. Lin Yuantu knew what he was worried about and said, Servant, butler, there's no one from the Lin family's blood vein. I dismissed them last night. Old man, child, I will also let him leave in disguise. Right now, there are only 100 or so members of the Lin family left. He was ready. Today's competition would determine the fate of the Lin family. Lin Fenglei did not say anything else. I'll go and prepare. Lin Yuantu muttered in his heart as he looked at the gate. God bless us. I hope our Lin family can get through this. Then, Lin Yuantu also left with big strides. Within the instance dungeon, Long Fei rushed out of the valley. After arriving at this safe area, he panted heavily as he calculated repeatedly in his mind, I've pretty much drawn it out now. I ran a few laps back and forth. I think all 100 wild beasts have gathered in the valley. In this period of time, Long Fei traveled everywhere, not sparing a single corner of the mountain. All of those red, named wild beasts were gathered by Long Fei. Now, he was just one step away. Shrek's intelligence is basically zero. If we pull their aggro, they'll charge up no matter where they go. But this was Long Fei's speculation. Would that happen in the end? Long Fei wasn't confident either. However, he did not have much time left. Even if he failed, he could not do anything about it. After half an hour, Long Fei's stamina had slightly recovered. He stood up once again, raised his sword, and stepped into the valley. As he looked at Shrek, who was gathered not too far away, Long Fei pointed his sword and said, "Grandson, grandfather is here. Come and chase me." Roar, rumble, rumble. In almost an instant, Shrek had been angered by Long Fei, and he instantly became incomparably manic as he charged towards Long Fei in a berserk manner. TL. Shrek equals 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 Long Fei. Long Fei did not dare to stay and immediately ran. As he ran, Long Fei was still counting down the number of shrews. If one wanted to clear this instant's dungeon, they would have to kill 100 of the berserk beasts inside. If one was missing, they would fail the quest. Thus, always, Long Fei had to ensure that he could pull the enmity of every wild beast towards him. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Sand and dust filled the sky, and these berserk beasts madly pursued. Long Fei was also running with all his might, crazily running towards the top of the valley, while ridiculing, come and chase me. You bunch of scum, come chase me. Ha ha! These brainless Shrek couldn't understand Long Fei's words, but they could see the mockery in Long Fei's expression, and they became even more frenzied as they charged towards him. The distance between them was getting closer and closer. At the same time, Long Fei was also getting closer and closer to the top of the valley. He panicked a little in his heart and silently said to himself, "Let's bet whether or not it succeeds will all depend on the heavens. I've done everything I can." Huff, huff. Long Fei rushed to the top of the valley. The mountain winds howled, and rubble rolled into the abyss. The wind speed is just right. Long Fei looked at the large group of Shrek students behind him and said, "Grandsons, come and bite your grandpa to death, haha. You won't be able to kill me in your lifetime." Finished. In that moment, Long Fei suddenly stepped into the abyss. There was a limit to the terrain of the King of Beasts Valley in the Instance dungeon. The two sides of the valley were surrounded by the edges of a map, and there was no way of getting to the top of the mountain. You can jump. It was also here. It was precisely the bug that Long Fei found. Of course, he was betting on a failure in this Instance dungeon. The moment Long Fei jumped into the abyss, he turned around and raised his middle finger and laughed wildly. "Come and bite me." At this moment, he was really worried, exceptionally worried, because what if Shrek didn't chase after him? Then he would fail this Instance dungeon. Failure was not scary. What was scary was the fear of not daring to challenge someone. Failure was not scary. What was scary was the fear of not daring to challenge someone. Long Fei was only idea after he entered the Instance dungeon. Like the refined space, even if he died, he would still be fine. Thus, Long Fei threw caution to the wind and jumped off the cliff, thinking in his heart, "Follow me, follow me." If he wanted to kill the 100 berserk beasts with Long Fei's current cultivation, he would never be able to do so. He could only take this gamble. Roar, rumble. When the wild beasts saw Long Fei jump into the abyss, they did not stop and also continued to jump in, one by one, like a sow jumping into water. Thump, thump. Furthermore, he did not stop and did not have any considerations. He completely didn't care about his own life. Ha ha ha. Long Fei laughed out wildly. We won the bet. Seeing those Shrek beasts jumping down into the abyss, Long Fei knew that he had won. This was what he wanted. Mad Killer Beast? He couldn't win. But if he could make good use of this cliff, then it would be a super critical hit, and he would be able to finish off all these wild beasts in one move. Seeing the wild beast jumping off the cliff, Long Fei became excited. All of you will die, haha. If they fell off a cliff that was tens of thousands of meters high, would they still be able to survive? Of course. Long Fei was only an idea that had entered the instance dungeon, but his idea in this instance dungeon was like his real flesh. So even if he jumped in, he would still fall to his death. If he died, would the dungeon be considered complete? If these berserk beasts hadn't died before he died, then it wouldn't be considered complete. But if these wild beasts died before him, he would be deemed by the system as completing the quest and passing through the instance dungeon. Each and every one of these wild beasts fell faster than Long Fei. The most important thing was that Long Fei had already checked the speed of the wind at the top of the mountain long ago. He could use the wind to slow down his descent, and then he would make himself die a bit slower. Long Fei spread open his arms, borrowing the wind's force to expand his body, reducing his falling speed. In front of him, wild beasts fell one after another. All of them stuck out their tongues, opened their eyes widely, and stared at Long Fei. Even so, they wanted to eat Long Fei up. There was nothing they could do without gravity. He continued to fall, drop, and drop. Woo-woo. Violent beasts constantly let out all kinds of strange noises, and some of them even started to poop in fear. 2 minutes later, bam! A head of Shrek fell into the abyss, causing a violent tremor to run through it. And then, without even letting out a scream, he was probably smashed into meat paste. Following that, bam, bam, bang, 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 the bottom of the chasm exploded as if it was firecrackers. Every time a wild beast fell, they would be smashed into mincemeat. The hole in the top of their head instantly became zero, of course. Their deaths did not give Long Fei anything, because Long Fei did not harm them. There was no system notification sound. Long Fei's heart was also tight. If one of them didn't die, then this father's jump off the cliff was truly in vain. As long as one of the ferocious beasts did not die before him, he would fail the challenge. Once the instance dungeon was closed, Long Fei would not have a chance to challenge it again. This was the only chance he had. He had to succeed no matter what. Bam! Rumble! Bam! Rumble! When they arrived at the bottom of the abyss, there was basically no wind. Long Fei's falling speed also increased, and the feeling of being able to descend so freely and quickly felt as if his heart was about to jump out. Long Fei also roared. Seeing that he was about to have a friendly exchange with the earth, Long Fei was also unable to control himself. At this moment, screams. Long Fei's heart tensed up. Fuck, there really is someone who is lucky enough to not fall so high. Isn't this a scam? It was the wild beast scream, which meant that it was still alive. If it didn't die, then the instance dungeon would fail. Long Fei was secretly anxious in his heart. No, your father's perfect challenge can't be because you failed. Your father will definitely not allow this to happen. Awoo! Awoo! The wild beast cried out in pain. There was only a little bit of blood left on its head. With just a simple move, it could have killed him. Under these circumstances, Long Fei once again risked his life, taking out his sword, not caring if he could still resist it. Even if we have to die together, I will still kill you. During the violent fall, Long Fei held onto his sword tightly. His body was like a cannonball, falling towards the berserk beast. Let's die together. Long Fei's power couldn't break Shrek's defense. However, such a high falling speed increased his strength. A sword pierced through the head. Crack! The wild beast let out a roar, and the blood above its head began to gush out. At this moment, with the sword held tightly in his hands, Long Fei instantly threw himself out. The speed of his descent was too fast. His two hands could not even withstand it. It was directly shattered and sent flying. His body also sank in and heavily crashed on the ground. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Long Fei roared. Although he knew that he would not die, this situation was too realistic, as though he was going to die, just when his body was still a centimeter away from the ground. The system suddenly sounded out, and at that moment, time froze. Ding! System notification. Congratulations to player Long Fei for successfully challenging the Berserk Beast instance dungeon. Ha ha ha! I am a genius. Long Fei laughed out wildly. This system beep was too wonderful. She did not want that feeling. As soon as the notification sound rang out, the valley vanished, the abyss vanished, and the corpses of Shrek's men also disappeared. Long Fei kept the idea. They arrived at the main hall of the refined space. Long Fei's arms had also returned. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for passing the Wild Beast dungeon and obtaining the reward, Berserk Beast Sword Art. Do you wish to cultivate it? Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for successfully challenging and obtaining a hidden reward. Do you want to receive the Wild Beast head? Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up, currently at the second stage of Apprentice. A series of notifications rang out. It was truly a great feeling. Looking at the system reward, Long Fei moved his body. Cultivate the Berserk God Sword Technique. Ding! Training successful. Then looking at Wild Beast Head, Long Fei's heart shivered. It can't be that they're really trying to reward a wild beast, right? He was slightly excited in his heart. After swallowing his saliva for a bit, Long Fei moved and said, "Receive." Roar, roar. Following Long Fei's receive, a roar sounded out in the air. A red named Shrek rushed out. Both of his eyes were staring at Long Fei with incomparable anger. Long Fei was shocked. Damn, is it really this guy with zero intelligence? System, you're also rewarded with a wild beast with a little high IQ. When Shrek understood what Long Fei was saying, his eyes burned with anger, and he opened his mouth as if he wanted to swallow Long Fei whole. It was just that. Long Fei's finger moved as he pointed towards Shrek. You want to make a move on me? Do you know who's the boss now? It's lousy. I am your master. Do you understand? If you move a bit, I will order you to jump into the abyss again, and you will die, you bastard. Long Fei was very overbearing. Since it was a berserk beast rewarded by the system, it would be his war pet. Could his war pet still make it soar to the sky? Reverse it. When Long Fei was enraged, Shrek immediately shrank back. He rolled his body and retreated to the side, waiting for Long Fei to come out, not daring to act recklessly again. Indeed, he was now Long Fei's war pet. Long Fei's order was everything. If Long Fei let it jump off the cliff again, he would have to jump too. Seeing that Shrek had calmed down, Long Fei nodded in satisfaction. That's more like it. However, if you want to be my Long Fei's war pet, your little strength is not enough. Show me what you know. If he doesn't perform well, I think he will. Long Fei did not understand much about Shrek in the dungeon. He only knew that the guy's IQ was 0. Without waiting for Long Fei to finish speaking, Shrek immediately stepped forward and shouted, "Boom!" The thick armor on his body suddenly flew out and quickly assembled, forming an extremely strong shield. Transformation? Long Fei muttered, "What else?" Roar! The armor on Shrek's body changed once more and transformed into a heavily armored weapon. Another transformation? Attack! I want to see your attack. Long Fei urged. Shrek's body recovered, and he opened his bloody mouth as he let out a roar. The scene was like a level 10 storm. That mouth was as wide as an abyss. The teeth inside were incomparably sharp. If swallowed, it would definitely be instantly killed. Gudong! Long Fei swallowed all of it and thought, damn, this is for sure. Shield can act as a tank. Heavy weapons can be used as a close-range warrior. The final move is considered to be the ultimate move. It'll be instant kill. And it's kind of useful. Although I don't have a good IQ, as long as I have the command, I can make up for it. All right, you can go back to my war pet space. I'll call you when I need you. Long Fei kept the idea. Actually, Long Fei also needed a war pet. Although Shrek seemed to be a retard, he was definitely a super helper. Wild beasts are here. The level has also increased. I've also trained in the sword arts. Now, Long Fei raised his gaze. Oh no, so long has passed, the Neon City's large competition has already ended, right? Long Fei suddenly thought of his promise to Lin Yuan too. The idea moved and immediately came out of refined space. At this moment, the sun was glaring. It was already high in the sky. Crap, crap. After exterminating so many clans yesterday, the rest will definitely be blamed on the Lin clan. I wonder how they're doing now. Long Fei did not bother to wash up as he walked out, while still wearing the clothes that were dyed in fresh blood the day before. Walking out of the courtyard, he realized that there was no one in the Lin clan. Seems like Lin Yuan-tu has already prepared for the worst. Long Fei frowned, then quickly rushed out of the Lin clan residence. At this moment, at the competition venue, the entire arena was in an uproar. Beat him to death. Beat him to death. Kill him, kill him. The disciples of the Lin clan cannot let him live. The Lin clan is a devil. On the fighting stage, a disciple of the Lin clan was beaten up to the point where his entire body was covered in blood and wounds. His head was severely deformed and his entire body was trembling. He wouldn't let him fall. As long as he fell, the duel would be over. Seeing the Lin family disciple beaten to such a state, Lin Yunus stood up and said, "City Lord, I admit defeat on his behalf. If he continues to fight, he will die." Wu Fengtian smiled faintly and said, "Admit defeat? Or did you represent them?" Clan leader Lin, this doesn't conform to the rules, does it? If you want to admit defeat, that's fine. But if you let him say it himself, this match will be over. Of course, if Patriarch Gue agrees, then we can also end this here. Clan head Gue, do you agree to his surrender? Just as Wu Fengtian finished speaking, that opponent punched the Lin family disciple in the mouth. His front teeth fell off, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. In this state, he was already unconscious and was unable to speak. Lin Yuan-tu said, "Since people are already like this, is there any need to continue fighting?" Gue Tianyi laughed coldly and said, "Yesterday, your Lin family led people to slaughter so many families. Why didn't you say anything?" Lin Yuan-tu, oh Lin Yuan-tu, I really did not expect you to be this kind of person. Your heart is even more vicious than a devil's. Do you want to annihilate the Neon City or dominate the Neon City? I'll tell you, as long as I, Gue Tianyi, am still alive, you, Lin Yuan-tu, will never be able to accomplish it. Gue Feng, hit him until he dies. Ha ha! Gue Tianyi laughed wildly. The surrounding people roared even louder. Kill him, beat him to death. Kill him, kill the entire Lin family. This was not just one disciple being beaten to such a state. There were several that had been beaten to a state of crippled, half of their bodies paralyzed, and the pubes had been shattered. Those with broken arms or legs were still considered light. Just as Lin Yuan-tu had expected, all the families of Neon City banded together to deal with the Lin family. Today, it was likely that the Lin clan would be doomed. Lin Fenglei said with a heavy voice, "Big bro, since that's the case, why not fight with them?" He couldn't bear to watch any longer. Lin Yuan-tu shook his head. "No, Shuang Air is still in their hands. We cannot do anything." Lin Fenglei said, "Then what do we do? Let them fight like this." Lin Yuan-tu's heart tightened as he silently hoped in his heart, "Long Fei, did you really leave? If you haven't left, then hurry up and show up." Hurry up. Long Fei was his only hope now. However, Lin Yuan-tu looked at the entrance no less than 100 times, but he could not see Long Fei. Bam! The Lin clan disciple on the stage was thrown off the fighting stage with a punch and crashed heavily onto the ground. Black blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and his body spasmed a few times before losing all signs of life. The stands erupted into applause. Good kill. Kill the Lin clan dog. Lin Yuan-tu's eyes tensed up. It was not the Neon City's family that wanted them dead. The entire Neon City would only wish for their Lin family to die. Everyone was pushing the wall, and now that everyone in the Lin clan had been beaten up, everyone wanted to step on them to highlight themselves. Everyone was pushing the wall, and now that everyone in the Lin clan had been beaten up, everyone wanted to step on them to highlight themselves. Lin Yuan looked at the entire arena, his heart sinking even deeper. This was because anyone who was incapable of suppressing the Lin clan would want to step on their Lin clan. The competition had just begun, and there were still many disciples coming up. All of the families were going up against the Lin family. If this went on, all of the Lin family's disciples who went up on stage would die on the stage. As the patriarch, Lin Yuan-tu's first concern was how the Lin family would continue to exist. Immediately, Lin Yuan stood up and said, "City Lord, my Lin family has withdrawn from this competition." Suddenly, a sound was heard. The audience slowly quieted down. Exit. Withdraw from the competition. Exiting means taking out all of the Lin family's territory. This way, he can still stand and shout in the Neon City. Without territory, there is no economy. A family without financial resources will quickly wither away. Humph, we can't let him go like this. The surroundings were filled with discussions. The expressions of the Lin clan disciples and elders also darkened. Many of them let out long sighs, because this was an action of helplessness. Lin Fenglei said, "Big brother, do you want to?" Lin Yuan said, "I have decided, as long as I can protect the Lin family's fire, withdraw from the competition, leave Neon City, find a place to start again. At that time, I will also resign as patriarch." His eyes were firm. The Lin family had been in the Neon City for generations, and leaving meant abandoning their ancestors. He was the one who didn't want to leave at all. But for the sake of the Lin clan, he had no other choice. He could work even harder now that he had lost his territory. But if there was no one left, then there was nothing left. If Long Fei did not appear, Lin Yuantu could only do this. Wu Fengtian was startled. Withdraw from the competition. He did not expect Lin Yuantu to suddenly use this move. The other clan leaders were startled as well. None of them took the lead. The Lin family was the second largest family other than the Gui's family. They own a mine, then a mine. It was like a gold mine. Everyone wants it. At this time, Lin Yuantu continued, "My Lin family will withdraw from the competition and give up all the assets of the Lin family. Furthermore, we will leave the Neon City in 3 days and will never step foot into the Neon City again for the rest of our lives. I, Lin Yuantu, will keep my promise, but I hope you can let my daughter Lin Shuang'er go." While talking, Lin Yuantu looked at Gui Tianyi. Gui Taibao, who was standing next to Gui Tianyi, was startled and asked, "Father, what happened to little sister Shuang?" Gui Tianyi shook his head. "I don't know." Gui Taibao did not believe that there was still something in the Neon City that his father did not know. "Father, did you capture Shuang?" Gui Tianyi replied, "No." Gui Taibao said, "If it wasn't you, then who would it be?" Gui Tianyi glared at him, anger evident in his eyes. Gui Taibao immediately lowered his head and said, "Father, I'm just a little concerned about little sister Shuang'er's safety." Gui Tianyi said harshly, "You useless trash. A woman is already enough to make you act like this. How are you going to enter the sect in the future? What if the Gui's family becomes stronger?" Gui Taibao lowered his head and said, "Father, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. But just who caught Shuang'er?" Gui Taibao asked in a low voice. Gui Taibao shook his head and said, "Black Wolf Mercenary is going to chase after him, but only the Wolf King is left. Yesterday, the Wolf King also died. No one knows if he caught Lin Shuang'er or not. If he does catch her, then?" Gui Taibao looked at Wu Fengtian. His heart quivered, and in that instant he said, "It shouldn't be. It's impossible for the senior brother to do such a thing. It's not beneficial for him at all." When Wu Fengtian saw Gui Taibao looking at him, he said in a bland voice, "Clan leader Lin, whether or not you withdraw from Neon City is not up to me alone. If you want all the clan leaders to agree, you also need the people of Neon City to agree. And your Lin family had killed so many people yesterday, yet you left like this." As he said it, the surrounding people were in an uproar again. "That's right. We can't let him get away with this. Letting them go now is letting the tiger return to the mountain. We can't agree to that. Blood must be repaid in blood." "You're right." It caused another commotion. The crowd roared loudly. Wu Fengtian's mouth revealed a cold smile, and then he said, "Regarding the matter of your daughter's disappearance, I really do not know about that. Your daughter is engaged to Gui's family. You should ask him about this." Hearing this, Gui Tianyi's heart tightened. He felt that something was amiss, and immediately said, "Lin Shuang'er is indeed engaged to my son, but she disappeared without a connection to my Gui's family." Wu Fengtian said, "Clan leader Lin, you heard it? Lin Yuantu's gaze tensed up, and he said to Lin Fenglei in a low voice, "Looks like we won't be able to leave today. Get the brothers to prepare." Lin Fenglei said, "Big brother, you want?" Lin Yuantu said, "These fellows will definitely not hand over Shuang. I must." Shuanger's mother, "I'm sorry." Shuanger, "I'm sorry." Lin Yuantu secretly thought, then looked at Wu Fengtian and asked, "How do I get my Lin family members to leave Neon City?" Wu Fengtian said, "It's not that I don't want to, it's that everyone does not want to. And there is no such rule in the competition. Clan leader Lin, if you want to leave this place safely, you should know what you have to do. What is there to be afraid of in this world? I am afraid that if I am not strong enough, the powerhouse will have everything. Understand? As for your daughter, I believe that once your Lin family has achieved a good result, there will naturally be people who will be unable to hold it in." Wu Fengtian did not want Lin Yuantu to mess up his plans. The competition had to continue. Lin Fenglei grabbed Lin Yuantu's hand and said, "Big brother, we still have a chance. As long as we can take first place, we will definitely still have a chance. Clan leader, we do not wish to leave Neon City. Patriarch, let's fight it out once more." "That's right. Patriarch." Many disciples of the Lin family looked at him. Lin Yuantu clenched his fists tightly, his heart aching because of these few years. There were no disciples that the Lin clan could afford to take on at all. If all the families joined together to deal with the Lin family, he would have no chance of winning at all. The last one will die. However, looking at the disciples of the Lin family, Lin Yuantu did not know what to say. At this moment, the judge shouted, "Next match, Lin family versus Gui's family. Both sides, please send out your disciples." As soon as he finished, Lin Yuantu's gaze tensed up, looking at them. He did not know who to send out. At this moment, the Gui's family disciple was already standing on the fighting stage, laughing mockingly. "You trash of the Lin family, come out and die. Trash from the Lin clan, come out and die. Trash from the Lin clan, come out and die." Ha! Laughing maniacally, he stared at the Lin clan disciples with a disdainful expression, as though he was going to wipe their necks. Extremely arrogant. It's Gui Qi. He's the second strongest person among the young generation of Gui's family at the Big Swordsman realm. Ha ha! The young disciples of the Lin family have yet to step into the Big Swordsman, and now the disciples of the Lin family are going to die on the stage again. Gui Qi is the #1 madman in the Neon City. He's the fiercest one. Those who fought him will be crippled even if he doesn't die. The members of the Lin clan should be tortured by such a person. Seeing Gui Qi making his appearance, the Lin family's anger was immediately extinguished. Second stage of Big Swordsman. The young people of the Lin family didn't even have a big swordsman. How could they be a match for him? Going up was death. There was no room for a backhand. Lin Yuantu's expression darkened, his fists clenched under his sleeves. If possible, he truly wanted to go up on stage himself, because regardless of which disciple he sent out, they would all be sending themselves to their deaths. He valued every single disciple of the Lin clan highly. So who would he send to battle? The back of his hand was full of flesh. No matter who he lost, Lin Yuantu would not be willing to part with it. Moreover, his opponent was still Gui Qi, and even if he died, he would die in an incomparably miserable manner. Lin Fenglei said, "Big brother, I'll go." Lin Yuantu glanced at him. "If we could participate in the battle, I would have gone down long ago." The annual competition was only for the younger generation. The older generation were unable to participate. "Come out. Trash from the Lin family. Hurry up and come out. All of you scum. Are you afraid of becoming dogs? Don't worry. I'll deal with you all with just one finger." Gui Qi clamored. He was extremely arrogant, and his cultivation at the Big Swordsman realm was enough for him to be arrogant. The spectators were hissing at the Lin family as well. The Lin clan disciples could not even raise their heads. Hearing Gui Qi's mocking words, they felt extremely uncomfortable in their hearts. Wu Fengtian said in a bland voice, "Clan leader Lin, you should have sent your disciple to accept the challenge." Lin Yuanta looked at the Lin family disciples and asked, "Which one of you is willing to fight? To go is to die." None of the Lin family disciples were Gui Chi's match. The Lin clan disciples remained silent. Gui Chi clamored even more and said, "Trash, hurry up and come out to die. Don't waste Lousy's time. If it really isn't possible, then all of you should come to me together. I will fight all of you by myself." Ha ha! Arrogant to this extent. Too arrogant. Lin Yuantu's face also became extremely ugly. The Lin family had never been provoked like this before, but they had never. So what? Gui Tianyi also sneered. "Lin Yuantu, are you pretending to be deaf? Hurry up and send our disciples to accept the challenge. Don't waste our time. If you can't even send out your disciples, you can just kowtow to Gui Chi and admit defeat. I believe he will spare your lives." Ahaha. Gui Tianyi also laughed out loud. Finally, everyone in the arena was laughing. Gui Chi said, "My patriarch has spoken. As long as you kneel down and kowtow, I will forgive your Lin family's trash this time." Lin Yuantu, kneel down. Ha! Gui Chi could not control himself. Lin Fenglei was so angry that his face flushed red. How preposterous! Big brother, I will go. Lin Yuanta clenched his fists. It was at this time. A soft voice sounded from not far away. "I'll go." The voice sounded familiar. Lin Yuantu's eyes turned cold. Lin Fenglei's eyes released a gold light, and in an instant he became extremely excited. "Ha ha! Brat, you're finally here." Lin Yuantu's gaze tensed up. His heart was also boiling, but he did not reveal it, and said, "Gui Chi's cultivation is very strong. Can you do it?" After all, Long Fei was still at the second stage of apprentice. According to the levels, there was a difference of dozens of levels between the two. It was impossible to defeat him in the game. However, Long Fei was just a bug. Long Fei said indifferently, "Can you send others out?" Lin Yuantu was a little embarrassed. Long Fei laughed. "Uncle Lin, don't worry, I'm fine." Lin Fenglei said, "I believe him." He had personally witnessed the scene of Long Fei killing one big swordsman after another, and Lin Fenglei would never forget that scene for the rest of his life. Lin Yuanta did not speak further, and said, "Be careful in every way." Long Fei's appearance did not cause much of a commotion, because many people did not know of Long Fei's existence. As for what happened yesterday, not many knew that Long Fei was the one who did it. "It's him." Gui Taibao bellowed, her eyes staring straight at Long Fei, her anger exploding out. "You dog, he actually dares to appear here. Today, I will take my revenge." Gui Tianyi asked, "Which one of you is he?" Gui Taibao said, "That's him, but right now, his steps are like a dead dog in front of me. My sword technique can easily kill him." Gui Tianyi stood up and said to Wu Fengtian, "City Lord, he is not a disciple of the Lin family. He cannot represent the Lin family and fight on their behalf." "Oh!" Wu Fengtian uttered softly, looked at Lin Yuantu, and said, "Clan leader Lin, if he is not a disciple of the Lin family, then he does not have the qualifications to participate." Lin Fenglei said heavily, "He is indeed not a disciple of the Lin family, but he is the son-in-law of the Lin family. With this identity, he should be able to represent the Lin family, right?" Wu Fengtian said, "If it's a son-in-law, then that's fine, but he is married to that young mistress of the Lin clan?" Lin Fenglei said, "Of course it's our young Miss Lin Shuang." Gui Tianyi's eyes became angry, and he said, "Do you take us to be fools? Lin Shuanger obviously has an engagement with my Gui's family first." Lin Yuantu said in a very confident manner, "You are right. There's indeed an engagement between you and your Gui's family, but after today, it will have nothing to do with your Gui's family at all. As long as the Lin clan won, the marriage contract would be cancelled." Gui Tianyi said solemnly, "Lin Yuantu, you dare humiliate my Gui's family? All right, I will definitely make you pay." Gui Tianyi's anger surged, and he said to Gui Chi, who was on the stage with a heavy voice, "Turn his head off for me." Gui Chi smiled lightly and said, "No problem." Looking at Long Fei walking up the stage, he laughed disdainfully. A waste with apprentice cultivation dares to come up? I can kill scum like you with my bare hands. Long Fei walked onto the stage without even glancing at Gui Qi, and instead said with a cold voice, "Everyone here, listen carefully. Whoever captures Lin Shuang and the other little girl, hand them over to me obediently. Otherwise, I will kill everyone here." With a cold sound, he was extremely arrogant. Wu Fengtian's gaze tightened. He knew who Long Fei was. Gui Qi shouted, "Only trash like you dares to kill people. Watch how I die." Before he could finish his sentence, a step was taken. Long Fei moved his sword, berserk beast sword art. Buzz! Her figure flashed and landed behind Gui Qi. Gui Qi stood where he was, staring at the scene with anger, blood dripping down his neck in the next second. Clang! The head fell off. Arrogant? Arrogant? Stirring? Ridicule? I'm sorry, but I killed him in a second. It was so much so that Long Fei did not even look at Gui Qi. He just wielded the berserk beast sword technique and cut off the throat. It was so crazy that Long Fei himself was shocked. Damn, isn't this berserk beast sword technique a little overbearing? One must know that he did not use the power of ancient dragon body just now, and only relied on his own strength. How much was his cultivation? Second stage apprentice. It was impossible for someone with this cultivation to defeat someone who was several tens of levels higher than him, or a super divine treasure. Or it could be an extremely powerful cultivation technique, an instant kill cultivation technique. From this, it could be seen how fierce the berserk beast sword technique was. I knew it. The reward for the instance dungeon, set up by the system, must not be simple. I didn't expect the first instance dungeon to reward such a powerful sword technique. Ha. Long Fei was excited. It was too unexpected. When that kind of sword strike came out, he was like a mad beast. The power of the sword was out, causing him to feel like he didn't need to do anything. All he needed to do was to slash down. When Gui Qi's head landed on the ground, the surrounding audience members, the disciples of the family, as well as Gui Tai Bao and the others were all dumbstruck, completely stupefied. What happened? What just happened? It's too fast. I simply didn't see it clearly. How did Gui Qi die? How could he die? Furthermore, it was a head that fell to the ground. This was the result of being directly sliced apart by a sharp force. It's impossible. What is the power level of the apprentice? It is impossible to defeat Gui Qi, who is at the big swordsman realm, and even more impossible to instantly kill him. Is this kid a human or a ghost? Isn't this Gui Qi too trash? Is he really Gui Qi? The crowd slowly began to discuss in a quiet voice. Lin Fenglei's eyes shone with excitement as he said, "Ha! He got stronger. Gui Qi was actually killed instantly." Big brother, did you see that sword attack just now? Lin Yuantu's pupils also contracted. He was incomparably excited as he shook his head slightly. "No, I didn't see it clearly." Lin Fenglei said, "This brat. Awesome." Lin Yuantu said, "OL3. In the future, you have to be more careful when calling him. He is not an ordinary person. I feel that he is not someone from our world." Lin Fenglei was startled. He looked to the sky and said, "Big brother, you're saying that he came from the divine space? Ancient world. One plane, 2 levels. One was an ordinary mortal. The other one was the aboriginals of the ancient world, the most ancient group of people." Lin Yuan nodded his head and said, "If that's not the case, then how does he kill Gui Qi, who is in the big swordsman realm? How can we exterminate so many families?" Lin Fenglei came to a realization and said, "That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Must definitely be from the divine space. This time, let's see how Gui Tianyi is going to deal with this situation. Is he trying to mess with my Lin family? Now let's see what you can do." Gui Tianyi's eyes darkened. He stared coldly at Long Fei, who was on the fighting stage, and said, "So this is the person you said had no fighting strength and only knew a few steps?" Gui Tai Bao looked at Long Fei strangely, as if he couldn't understand him at all. But he was the one who only knew how to walk. Gui Tianyi said again. You and him have met. How much certainty do you have? Gui Taibao muttered. 60 points, right? Are you 60% sure? Gui Tianyi's gaze tensed up. Gui Taibao silently swallowed his saliva and said, 5 points. I will definitely not be worse than him. Gui Tianyi let out a heavy exhale. He did not have much confidence towards Gui Taibao in his heart, because he did not clearly see how Long Fei executed that sword strike. Many people didn't see it clearly. However, Wu Fengtian saw it clearly. He was one of the very few people present who knew that Long Fei had exterminated over a dozen clans. So after Long Fei came onto the stage, his eyes never left Long Fei. A sword, strike with your sword. There aren't any gaps. It can be said to be one with the sword. No, using the word one with the sword is not enough to describe him. The sword technique just now was too strong. It was like a ferocious beast pressing down from the top. What a strong sword art! Wu Fengtian's heart secretly tensed up. At the same time, his eyes narrowed slightly. A roadblock suddenly appeared. However, the corner of Wu Fengtian's mouth slightly curled up as he gave a cold smile. Don't say that you're a roadblock. Even if you're a dragon, you still have to lie on the ground for me today. He would not allow anyone to disrupt his plans. Absolutely not. On the fighting stage, Long Fei did not leave. Looking at the people around him who were whispering to each other, he said with a heavy voice, "Listen to me carefully. Hand over Lin Shuang'er and that little girl, or I will kill all of you." It was that direct. If one were to say that they thought Long Fei was joking around, then at this point in time, no one believed that Long Fei was joking around. The stands quieted down. Many of these people were unhappy. At this moment, Wu Fengtian abruptly stood up and said, "Brat, you're too arrogant. Yesterday, you massacred 14 families and killed 1,867 people. You dare to be so arrogant today. Do you really think that there's no one in my neon city?" As soon as he finished, Lin Yuantu's gaze tensed up. Crap. Now Long Fei is out in the open. Lin Fenglei also frowned and said, "Big brother, what should we do now?" Lin Yuantu did not speak. There was nothing he could do. In this kind of situation, it was very possible that the entire Neon City would join forces to deal with Long Fei. What are they going to do? Gui Tianyi's expression changed. Was it him who exterminated 14 families? He's the homicidal maniac. In an instant, the stands were also in an uproar. It's him. Is it this kid? After killing so many people, he shouldn't even think about leaving today. Don't let him leave here alive. Pay with blood, kill him. Kill him. Kill him, kill him. Everyone shouted in unison, their voices resonating. In an instant, everyone in the entire competition arena was shouting in unison, "Kill him." Long Fei stood on the fighting stage without the slightest fear, coldly laughed, and said, "You want to kill me? Sure. Who the hell came down first?" He pointed his sword and slowly moved it. His expression was extremely arrogant as he shouted, "Who is it? Who the hell is the first to come down and die? Come on, get down here right now." You like to shout? As long as they could find the Phoenix, what was the point in fighting the people of the city? In the dream, the Phoenix had defended him from the attack of the Emperor Xian and fallen for him. Although it was only a dream, Long Fei felt that it was a memory from the past. Thus, for the sake of the Phoenix, he would become enemies with the entire world. If killing one person was not enough, then he would kill 10,000 people, annihilate 100 million, and even destroy ancient world. The dream from last night had made Long Fei feel very uncomfortable. The dream from last night had made Long Fei feel very uncomfortable. His heart felt like it was being pressed down by a huge stone. Before the Phoenix could be found, his mind was heavily crushed by the boulder in his heart. If you can die for me, then I can become enemies with the entire world, be arrogant for you, be proud for you, be happy for you. Long Fei's arrogant and tyrannical voice echoed in the competition grounds. His voice was completely crushed by the voices of thousands of people. Who dares to come out? Who would dare? Come out and fight. Long Fei's sword swept out. Whoever comes will die. If you don't hand them over, None of you will survive. It was as if he had fallen into madness. Lin Yuan frowned deeply. Long Fei was not someone he could control, and under the current situation, he was most likely going to become the enemy of the entire Neon City. Although Lin Fenglei was worried, his face was full of excitement. How arrogant, how overbearing, huh? This is the true name of the iron-blooded man. Kid, I really admire you. Lin Fenglei really wanted to rush down and fight with Long Fei. Wu Fengtian secretly sneered. It's obviously something on your head. Just a casual provocation would cause you to lose all sense of reason. Huh? And then, Wu Fengtian said lightly, Patriarchs, what do you think? Gui Tianyi said straightforwardly. Killing so many people, Neon City cannot let this kind of people go unpunished. I mean, everyone should join hands and kill together. The family patriarch of the Liu family said, I agree too. I agree. If this brat doesn't die, then what about our Neon City people? We can't let him leave here alive. In an instant, the several great clans had joined hands. Wu Fengtian said, We must kill him, but today is also the Neon City's martial arts competition, so we can't not continue. Clan leaders, what do you think about this? Whoever can kill him will be the champion of this year's martial competition. Because Long Fei was no longer able to continue with the competition, but Wu Fengtian changed it a little. As long as it did not hinder his son from being in the limelight, he could win first place in the tournament. When everyone heard this, they immediately agreed. City Lord, you have to consider the best. The competition and the slaughter of the devils will be combined together without delay. Good idea, I agree. Gui Tianyi didn't know why Wu Fengtian would do such a thing. He had a bad premonition in his heart, and furthermore, more than half of the Neon City's family had been slaughtered by Long Fei, so the remaining families would definitely not capture Lin Yuantu's daughter. The Gui's family was the biggest suspect. However, Gui Tianyi did not capture Lin Shuang'er at all, which was also the last possibility. If Lin Shuang'er was really caught, then it must be in the hands of the city lord, Wu Fengtian. Gui Tianyi's eyes tensed up. Wu Fengtian looked at Gui Tianyi and said, Brother Gui, what do you think? Gui Taibao first said, Father, you are way too thoughtful. When the time comes, I will definitely bring that piece of trash's head with me. Wu Fengtian smiled slightly and said, So that means Gui's family agrees as well? Gui Tianyi replied, Agreed. Everyone agreed that he was not equally certain. Wu Fengtian nodded his head and said, As the city lord, originally, my Wu clan would not participate in the competition, but other than today's competition, there's also the demon-slaying assembly. So, as the city lord, I cannot ignore it. One dragon. Wu Yilong walked out. Your son is here. Wu Fengtian said, Come out. Wu Yilong walked out and hugged both of his fists and said, My name is Wu Yilong. I will represent the Wu family. His appearance was praised by many people. It was also at this time. Wu Fengtian stood up, bowed respectfully, and said, Elder Yang, this is my son. In the VIP seats, not too far away, an elder nodded his head to indicate that he understood. Why was he suddenly so respectful? Many people did not know who that Elder Yang was. Right now, their gazes were all on Wu Yilong's side. It's good that the city lord is here. What is Wu Yilong's cultivation level? Why am I unable to see through it? What is rare is that you are also in the big swordsman realm. With the city lord's support, we can definitely split this kid into 8 pieces today. Everyone was discussing and praising Wu Yilong, except Gui Tianyi. Others might not know who he was, but Gui Tianyi knew him very well. Of the ancient antiquity, an elder who was responsible for accepting disciples. Now, Gui Tianyi finally understood everything. There was not the slightest expression on his face, but his heart sank as he said, Wu Yilong, good one, Wu Fengtian. I didn't expect you to do this. You arranged all this, didn't you? He now knew why Wu Fengtian had constantly approached the Gui's family during this past year, and even took Gui Taibao as his godson. This guy had always been scheming against the Gui's family. Wu Fengtian was an old cunning fox, so was Gui Tianyi. Wu Fengtian pushed her son out at this time, Definitely not because he wanted to inherit the position of city lord, but because of the position of the ancient antiquities outer sect disciple, which also means it's the spot on his son Gue Taibao. Gue Taibao's eyes lit up as he said, "Brother Elong, you're going to fight too? Ha ha! When the time comes, we'll work together and trample this trash under our feet." Gue Taibao didn't think too much about it. Wu Elong smiled at Gue Taibao. Gue Taibao continued to talk nonstop. Father, look, it's Brother Elong. I didn't expect Brother Elong to actually come back." His face was filled with excitement, as though he had just met his father. Gue Tianyi looked at his brainless son and wished for a slap, and said indifferently, "Disappeared for a year, suddenly appearing. What is his cultivation realm?" "The Imperial Guard," Gue Taibao said. "Father, do you have any instructions?" Gue Tianyi looked at Long Fei, who was on the fighting stage, and made a plan in his heart. This kid is definitely not worthy of these families. Moreover, Wu Fengtian will definitely arrange for a high number of contestants to fight in order to obtain my Gue's family spots. This way, Gue's family will only have one goal, Wu Yilong. "Come here," Gue Tianyi uttered softly. Gue Taibao walked over to his father's side. Gue Tianyi whispered a few sentences into Gue Taibao's ear. The expression in Gue Taibao's eyes changed, but it immediately became ridiculing again, and then he laughed complacently. "Father, don't worry. 1 year ago I was able to win against him. 1 year later, I will still be able to win against him." "Humph! You still want to get a place in the ancient antiquity? Dream on." Gue Taibao was very arrogant. It was also at this time. Wu Fengtian stared at Long Fei, who was in the arena, and said with a heavy tone, "Kid, you have killed so many people. Today I will take your dog life. Where are the disciples of the various big families?" Many hot-blooded young disciples stood up and shouted, "Here." Wu Fengtian pointed at Long Fei, who was standing in the center of the arena, and said, "Kill him." Boom! Dozens of disciples rushed to the fighting stage. Swish, swish, swish. Swish, swish, swish. They all flew onto the fighting stage, took out their weapons, and pointed at Long Fei. Long Fei swept his eyes across them and said indifferently, "Do you want a duel? Or fight in a group?" A young disciple glared at him. "I alone am enough to deal with a waste like you, who is at apprentice." As soon as he finished, with his full strength, he attacked with his sword. He wanted to take advantage of Long Fei's surprise and kill him. As long as he killed Long Fei, he would be first in this year's martial competition. Normally, he knew that he wouldn't have the chance in a match, but now he had a chance. Spirit Dragon returning to the sea. He extended his sword out, and a strand of spirit chi wrapped itself around the sword, like a spirit serpent piercing towards Long Fei. Long Fei smirked, "Trash." Boom! With a step, he brandished his long sword. Berserk Beast. Kill. With a slash of the sword, the spirit dragon was severed and a head fell to the ground. Fresh blood gushed out and splashed across half of the arena. Long Fei looked at the head on the ground and stepped on it. Who was the trash? Unrivaled domineering. His aura was filled with boundless arrogance. The people on the fighting stage were slightly startled, many of them taking half a step back. They looked at each other, and then, shwa, shwa, shwa. Numerous figures moved and rushed towards Long Fei. They were all disciples of the same family, and their coordination was extremely good. Furthermore, the sword techniques they used were also a type of sword formation. Skylight, Earth Thrust, Kill. In a moment, 2 swords struck out, directly sealing Long Fei's path. Long Fei was not afraid. He continuously blocked with the long sword in his hand and slowly moved back. At the same time, 2 other people attacked from behind. Attack your heart and your heels. Long Fei was so fast that even to walk like a snake could not support him as he continuously moved and retreated. Their teamwork was just too perfect. For a moment, Long Fei felt a sense of danger. Seeing Long Fei continuously retreat and dodge, the 4 of them started to feel proud. "Kid, today I will take your dog life. It's possible for you to be a bit more powerful in a one-on-one fight, But in front of the alliance of our senior brother disciples, you are just a piece of trash. Trash! Give me your life. The four of them released their powers at the same time, releasing even more powerful attacks towards Long Fei. In the stance. Ha ha! This is the Liu family's four directions sword formation. It is a waste against a waste who is only at apprentice. However, killing this demon dweller is my responsibility. The family patriarch of the Liu family stroked his beard and smiled. Long Fei could not hold on any longer and was about to die. Once Long Fei died, the Liu family would take first place. At that time, they would annex the Lin family's territory and become the biggest family in Neon City. Thinking of that, the family patriarch of the Liu family burst out laughing. Wu Yilong looked at his father, his eyes tensed up. He was worried that if Long Fei was killed by the four brothers of the Liu family, then his efforts today would be in vain. Wu Fengtian's gaze tensed up. He was also worried. However, an old man beside him said softly, "Don't worry, this kid is even stronger than I thought." Boom! Long Fei suddenly jumped out of the encirclement. The four of them looked at each other, then rushed towards Long Fei once again. Long Fei smiled faintly. For symbols formation, elephant is not an elephant, dog is not a dog, and in my opinion, it's a David's deer. How preposterous! Kid die. Trash. How could someone like you comment on the four-symbol sword formation? Don't run. Come break our sword formation. The four of them exerted their strength, their eyes burning with rage. Long Fei raised the sword in his hand. His breathing was stable. In an instant, his eyes exploded with beast light. Berserk beast sword technique. Buzz. Roar. His aura buzzed, followed by a roar from his longsword. He felt that his sword was not a sword, but a crazed beast. A berserk violent bear. Break for me. The sword chopped down. To be exact, Violent Bear's fists exploded, smashing down heavily towards the four of them. Rumble! With an explosive sound, the four of them simultaneously flew out of the arena. A crack appeared in the center of the fighting stage. It must be known that this fighting stage was made of a special kind of stone, and it cracked just like that. Bang, 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 bang. For falling sounds could be heard. Blood spurted out wildly from his mouth. His body twitched a few times before collapsing on the ground without any signs of life. Ding! Ding! The system beep continuously rang out, but had been ignored by Long Fei. This low-level monster had nothing to explode with. Long Fei did not even look at the four of them, but looked at them and said, "Continue." The violent bear's attack just now was too fierce, and the spectators were once again stunned into silence. They stared at Long Fei in shock. Is this the power of the apprentice? He was completely stunned. The people on the fighting stage were also the same. Their hearts were filled with fear. They were all retreating slightly. Wu Fengtian's eyes tensed up, and he looked at the old man beside him. The old man's eyes flashed as he turned his sleeves to cover his face. 2 seconds later, Schwa, he waved his sleeve, revealing the face of a young man who appeared to be around 20 years old. Then, with one step, he flew from the stands towards the arena. Wu Fengtian looked at Wu Yilong and said, "Yilong, you can go on stage now." Wu Yilong also stepped on the spot and flew out. Seeing that, Gui Tianyi smiled and said to Gui Taibao, "You can also come out now. Remember what I said to you just now." Gui Taibao nodded and said, "Father, I will remember. You can rest assured." Gui Tianyi said, "You have to be careful yourself." Gui Taibao was his only son and his only hope. He had already obtained the ancient antiquities outer disciple spot, which was exceptionally precious to Gui Tianyi. The ancient antiquity was just a springboard. As long as he could survive in ancient antiquity, he might be able to charge into there in the future. Gui Taibao walked out with large strides. Behind him followed a few elites of the Gui's family, all of whom were in the big swordsman realm. Lin Fenglei said, "Big brother, this old fox Wu Fengtian and Gui Tianyi is going to fight." Long Fei, Lin Yuanto also saw it clearly. However, there was nothing he could do at this time. If he brought some people to help Long Fei, if he lost, then it would be impossible for his Lin family to leave the Neon City even if they wanted to. He was the head of the Lin clan, and he had to consider the Lin clan. If he was alone, he would not hesitate to fight alongside Long Fei. Buzz! A buzz resounded from the fighting stage as the Wu clan disciple landed on it. The man who changed his expression laughed sinisterly. "Brat, you do have some skills, but it's time to end you." As soon as his voice faded, the figure disappeared. Long Fei's pupils tightened. Bam! A palm shot out like lightning, heavily smashing on a Long Fei's chest. Long Fei immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body staggered backwards. Ha ha. Having succeeded with his palm, he didn't continue to pursue and take advantage of the victory. Instead, he let out a cold laugh. Strangely enough, there was no expression on his face. It was like a numb face. Long Fei stood still, and the corners of his eyes slightly sank. In his heart, he thought, what a fast speed. He didn't get a good look at the palm strike just now. He didn't even have the time to sense it. One could tell how fast he was. This is definitely not the cultivation of a big swordsman. It is definitely stronger than big swordsmen. Long Fei's heart trembled, and he let out a light breath. The man looked at Long Fei and said, "You can't even take a single blow." Long Fei glared. "Come again." The man sneered and said, "You like looking for trouble, right? Then I'll help you." Buzz. His figure disappeared once again. Long Fei's eyes were tightly locked. "I can't see it clearly." He couldn't see it clearly. It's too fast. Bam! Without waiting for him to react, he struck his abdomen again, causing Long Fei's eyes to darken. He wanted to retreat, but he was simply unable to do so. Boom! He spat out another mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. The man still did not pursue him. With a pleased sneer, he said, "Trash." Long Fei was unable to withstand 2 consecutive moves and could not even see his speed clearly. He did not know how to defend against them. In these 2 attacks, Long Fei's health point was only left with 1/3 of his original strength. With another palm strike, his health point would most likely reach the bottom. Motherf asterisk cur. Long Fei cursed as he clenched his fists tightly. The man smiled and said, "You're angry? Ha ha. You have to admit it when I say you're trash, understand? A trash like you isn't even qualified to die in my hands, ha ha." The man laughed coldly and looked at Wu Yilong. Wu Yilong understood. His sword moved, and he took a step forward. His speed was astonishingly fast as well. Under the sword tip, a strong power was released, locking onto Long Fei's forehead, wanting to kill him with a single slash. Gue Taibao's eyes became cold, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He was not in a rush to take action, but held onto his sword with one hand, like a hunting leopard. Wu Yilong shouted, "Go to hell." A crushing blow. Wu Fengtian laughed in satisfaction. After injuring Long Fei in 2 moves, Long Fei would no longer be able to resist. If his son attacked again, his son would become the final winner. He was overjoyed. The people around the stands also became excited. "Ha ha, he's being arrogant. He's going to die soon. Let's see how arrogant you are then. Kill him, kill him, kill him." The stands rumbled once again. Long Fei's heart was also burning with rage. He had suffered heavy injuries consecutively and was extremely unhappy. He cursed loudly, his heart turning sinister, and said secretly, "Ancient dragon body." Buzz! With a loud bang, the power of the ancient dragon body gushed out of his body in an instant. In that instant, Long Fei's pupils became golden. Looking at Wu Yilong, who was in midair, he let out a heavy cry, scrammed to the side. His sword swept out. Boom! The sword chi condensed into substance and shot out like a slap. It landed on Wu Yilong's body. Bam! Wu Yilong fell to the ground as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Wu Fengtian suddenly stood up. He saw his own son lying on the ground moaning in pain. His eyes turned sinister and wanted to rush to Long Fei's side to kill him. Cluck, cluck, cluck. He clenched his fists and his joints cracked. The rage and killing intent in his eyes were extremely strong. Wu Fengtian stared at Long Fei sinisterly, gritting his teeth. Brat, you hurt my son. I will definitely take your life. His gaze turned to the man who had changed his expression, expressing his dissatisfaction. It was just that. The man did not expect Long Fei to still be able to suddenly use force, and when Long Fei released his sword chi, he did not even have time to react. The stand were also stunned. All of them were speechless. Lin Fenglei said heavily, "Well done. This move is too cool." Lin Yuna looked at Wu Yilong and said, Wu Fengtian wanted to let his son get the upper hand, but unexpectedly, he was slapped by Long Fei to the ground in one move. Lin Fenglei laughed. It's a pity that he didn't die. Gui Tianyi also laughed sinisterly. Serves you right. In the arena, the man's eyes narrowed with incomparable rage as he said, You dog, you still dare to fight back? Let's see how I'll kill you. Boom! With a flip of his right palm, a dense power rushed towards Long Fei. The same. His speed was too fast for him to see. But the Long Fei who had released the ancient dragon body was completely different from before. His eyes became golden, and his body became the body of a dragon. The man's speed was like an ant crawling in his eyes. Stop. Too slow. It's really too slow. Long Fei laughed coldly, without waiting for the man's attack to fall. He took a step forward and immediately grabbed the man's collar, raising the man in front of him up into the air and smashing him heavily onto the ground. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The thunderous explosion caused the entire arena to cave in and collapse. The entire arena began to shake violently. Those people who were eating melon were all stunned like idiots. They were clearly able to completely crush Long Fei just now, but now it had completely changed. How could this be? Too unthinkable. In the pit, the man with the changed of face looked lifelessly at Long Fei. Black blood continuously flowed out from the corner of his mouth as he said, No, impossible. This is impossible. You're only in the apprentice realm. You cannot kill me. Long Fei looked down from above and stared coldly at the man who changed his expression. At this moment, the man with the changed face dropped his face, revealing an aged face. Looking at Long Fei's gaze, his heart couldn't help but tremble. His body felt cold, as if he had fallen into a terrifying state of consciousness. His voice was trembling. Long Fei chuckled and said, Who's the trash? With that said, Long Fei raised his leg slightly. The elder's pupils widened as he shook his head and said, No. Bam! Long Fei stepped down, blood spraying everywhere. At the same time, Long Fei raised his eyes and with a heavy thump, he shouted, Who else? Rumble. The sky suddenly exploded and muffled thunder could be heard from all directions. The aura coming from Long Fei's body completely destroyed the entire audience. The entire hall was silent. At the same time, Wu Fengtian panicked. He was very clear in his heart on how strong that old man's cultivation was. That old man was a powerhouse of the sword faction, yet he was able to kill him in one move. If he had not seen it for himself, Wu Fengtian would definitely not have believed it. This kid is a monster. However, Wu Fengtian's heart sank. This is my city. I am the king here. I will absolutely not allow anyone to disrupt my plans. Then, Wu Fengtian moved his body and directly sent a sound transmission to Long Fei. Brat, if you want that little girl Lin Shuanger to live, then kneel down right now. Second, Wu Fengtian was already angry. His son Wu Yilong was currently heavily injured, and in a situation like this, he was definitely not Long Fei's match. He might die on the fighting stage. He could not let this happen, definitely not. Wu Yilong was his only son, so he had to let him live. He also had to let him enter the ancient antiquity smoothly. Right now, the elders of ancient antiquity are watching from the VIP seats. Wu Fengtian knew that he still had a chance. He still had a trump card in his hand. They were the two women that Long Fei had been looking for, Lin Shuanger and Phoenix. As long as he grasped this trump card properly, Wu Fengtian would still be able to win with certainty. Judging from how Long Fei exterminated so many clans yesterday, the fact that Long Fei valued the two women in his hands extremely showed that the trump card in his hands was heavy. Kneel now, Wu Fengtian said heavily once again. Long Fei frowned, his gaze sweeping across the entire audience. He did not reply with a sound transmission, but instead said heavily, "Who are you? Come out here and die for lousy." Of the several thousand people present, anyone could possibly send a sound transmission to him. Moreover, this voice was very unfamiliar. He didn't have much contact with it, so he didn't know who was transmitting to him. Lin Fenglei asked, "What is he saying?" Lin Yuan said, "Someone is sending a sound transmission to him." Lin Fenglei's gaze also swept across and asked, "Who?" Lin Yuan replied, "I don't know. Should I answer first if it's Gui Tianyi or not?" Lin Fenglei said in a low voice, "Big brother, I'll go check on Wu Fengtian." He silently retreated. Wu Fengtian said with a sound transmission, "Little bastard, did you not hear what I said? I told you to kneel down, otherwise I would immediately break Lin Shuanger's hand." Long Fei's eyes narrowed as he searched for the source of the sound. "Threatening this daddy?" Wu Fengtian said, "It's not a threat, but an order. We can make a deal." Wu Fengtian's tone changed. He felt that he could make good use of Long Fei. Long Fei asked, "What kind of deal?" Wu Fengtian said, "Very simple. You go ahead and kill all the people from Gui's family." Long Fei said, "And after killing them all, you can release him?" Wu Fengtian sneered and said, "Do you have the qualifications to negotiate with me? Lin Shuanger's life might not be important, but that little girl's life. Haha." He was testing the waters. He felt that Long Fei was not concerned with Lin Shuanger, but with the little girl. Long Fei's heart tensed up. Also at this moment, his gaze moved, locking onto the Gui's family disciples directly as he landed in front of Gui Taibao with a single step. Gui Taibao's pupils tightened as he moved his sword, transforming into a powerful sword move. With a heavy sound, he shouted, "Die!" The long sword stabbed out. A few Gui's family disciples at the side also quickly attacked. Long Fei stood in place without moving and waited for all the disciples of the Gui's family to attack. Buzz! The aura of the ancient dragon body moved, and the long sword in Long Fei's hand swept out. Quang Long. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded. The berserk beast sword technique under the power of the ancient dragon body was completely different, as though it had evolved and evolved in an instant. At first, Long Fei was holding a violent bear, but now, what he was holding was an incomparably ferocious raging dragon. Rumble! The dragon-shaped sword Qi shot out from all directions. Streaks of golden light were dazzling and incomparably gorgeous. The sword smashed down. All of the Gui's family's disciples were sent flying. Long Fei swung his sword, releasing a heavy blast as the raging dragon churned. Rumble! All of them smashed down vertically, half dead, half crippled, dying. There was only a little bit of health left on the top of his head. Every single one of them was twitching and trembling, and they couldn't even make a sound as if they were in pain. This move stunned everyone present. What was that sound just now? Too strong. This sword move is amazing. I have to say, this kid is indeed strong. Beating all the Gui's family disciples to the ground with one sword strike. Isn't this too overpowered? No matter what plane it was in, everyone respected Powerhouse. Even though Long Fei had killed so many people, they were all subdued by this furious dragon sword move of Long Fei's. The corner of Wu Fengtian's mouth revealed a pleased smile. Ha ha. With just one move, he crippled the Gui's family disciple, causing Gui Taibao to directly kneel on the ground and not be able to stand up. From the looks of it, his knees must have been shattered. This way, his son would have no opponents. As long as Long Fei died in the hands of his son would also receive the recognition of the ancient antiquity Elder Yang, and would be able to enter the ancient antiquity as well. However, what he did not expect was that Elder Yang, who was seated in the VIP seats, suddenly stood up, and his chi shook, directly suppressing the entire audience's voices. He looked at Long Fei and asked, "Little brother, are you interested in entering my ancient antiquity?" He threw out the olive branch directly. The entire venue shook. Wu Fengtian's eyes turned sinister, and her heart started to become nervous. Looking at Elder Yang, she wanted to say something, but he realized that Elder Yang's eyes were fixated on Long Fei, with no intention to look at him at all. Cluck, cluck. Wu Fengtian gritted his teeth as he became even more annoyed. He is an elder of the ancient antiquity? When did the clan elders of the ancient antiquity come here and directly allowed him to join the ancient antiquity? Can't you tell? His voice even carried a bit of begging, as if he was begging this brat to turn out to be an ancient antiquity. How is that possible? But the ancient antiquity, many people thought that they had heard wrongly. It was because of the giants of the ancient antiquity, the hegemons of the ancient antiquity, with a circumference of billions of kilometers, and the rumors said that the ancient antiquity had the powerhouse as his backer. To think that the ancient antiquity was every warrior's dream is a place that comes into contact with a real powerhouse world. 3 years, 3 whole years before there was even a single spot in a neon city. Moreover, he could fight with all his might among the countless young disciples, but the elders of the ancient antiquity immediately invited him. What kind of existence was that? It was too shocking. It was so shocked that the clan leaders and disciples and elders who wanted to kill Long Fei were trembling in their hearts. Because if Long Fei nodded and agreed, then he was a disciple of the ancient antiquity. Making a move on him was tantamount to going against ancient antiquity. Who would dare? He didn't even dare to move. The hearts of the clan leaders began to grow cold. It was also at this time. A system notification rang out. Ding! System notification, trigger mission, enter ancient antiquity. Completing the quest will be rewarded with a piece of phoenix feather. Quest failure level 1. Long Fei was startled. Holy shit, there's actually a mission? He looked at the elder of the ancient antiquity, and at this time, Wu Fengtian said with a heavy voice, "Reject him, or else I'll kill that little girl immediately." The system had given him a mission, and it was an extremely simple one at that. As long as he agreed to go to ancient antiquity, he would be able to complete the mission and receive the phoenix feather as a reward. However, Wu Fengtian's sound transmission made Long Fei's heart tighten. The mission was secondary, and whether or not he went to ancient antiquity was secondary as well. The phoenix was the most important. If something were to happen to Phoenix, Long Fei could not afford the consequences. And then, Long Fei looked at the elder of the ancient antiquity and said indifferently, "Ancient antiquity? Not interested." At this moment, however, in his heart, Long Fei said, "I'll just drop 1 level. I can't just take Phoenix's life as a joke." Long Fei did not know if the images in the dream were the memories from his past, but he knew in his heart that the Phoenix was extremely important to him. As soon as he finished, Elder Yang's face was full of disappointment as he said, "Ancient antiquity can give you a bigger stage and can bring you a lot of gangs. Do you want to reconsider? Reject the ancient antiquity's invitation?" The people around the grandstands were all stunned. Someone mocked, "Is this person an idiot? Holy sh**t. Is this person crazy? Ancient antiquity, that was an invitation from ancient antiquity. You rejected it just like that? Is he retarded? This is something that countless martial artists would never dare to think about in their lives. This person must be a fool." Many patriarchs of the families let out a long sigh of relief in their hearts. If Long Fei agreed to it, then they wouldn't dare to even touch a single strand of Long Fei's hair. If Long Fei rejected, then there was nothing to worry about. In response to the invitation from the elders of the ancient antiquity, their hearts once again tensed. Wu Fengtian's heart hung in the air, afraid that Long Fei would nod his head and agree. However, Long Fei did not consider this, and answered very straightforwardly, "Not interested." His heart felt like it was cutting through meat. However, he said that he was not interested and rejected ancient antiquity's invitation, but The system did not indicate that the quest had failed. This was very strange. In other words, if Long Fei did not give the system instructions, the mission would not be affected at all. No matter what he said, it would not affect the mission. Not bad. Let's not talk about the rewards, otherwise it would be too King stupid to drop. Long Fei heaved a sigh of relief. After all, he was an elder of the ancient antiquity. If he were to be rejected just like that, at least he would feel a little unhappy. It was just that. He did not show it and smiled bitterly. What a pity. Wu Fengtian was secretly pleased with himself, and after confirming that the card in his hand was a trump card, he immediately turned to Elder Yang and said, "This brat does not know how to appreciate favors." Elder Yang said, "Geniuses have the right to be arrogant." Although the sound was not loud, many people heard it. These words gave Long Fei a huge amount of praise. In his heart, Long Fei was a genius. This evaluation was much higher than Wu Yilong's and Gue Taibao's. He clenched his fists under his sleeves and said with an apologetic smile, "This is not being arrogant, but arrogant and conceited. Furthermore, he is a homicidal maniac, and this kind of person simply doesn't have the qualifications to enter the ancient antiquity." Elder Yang only smiled. Killing demon? Which powerhouse didn't step on a corpse to get the upper hand? He did not defend Long Fei, because since Long Fei had rejected him, he did not have any obligation to help Long Fei. Long Fei's raging dragon attack was indeed sharp. To those in The Apprentice, this move could be considered stunning. This was also why he had his eyes on Long Fei. He wanted to save Long Fei. As long as Long Fei agreed with a nod of his head, the people of Neon City would not dare to touch him again. But Long Fei rejected it. That's why he said to himself, "What a pity." Anger raged within Wu Fengtian's heart, and he said with a heavy voice, "Didn't I ask you to kill all of the Gui's family's disciples? Now kill them all." Immediately, Long Fei's gaze tightened as he cursed in his heart. "Fuck, don't let me find your location, or else I'll kill you first." And then, Long Fei walked to the front of the kneeling Gue Taibao. Gue Taibao trembled, his face incomparably pale white, as if his throat was stuck. He continuously shook his head and said with a hoarse voice, Don't kill me, don't." Gue Tiany's pupils tightened. He did not dare linger, and with a move of his body, he jumped out of the stand, quickly landing on the fighting stage in the ruins. He hugged his fists and said, "Little brother, I, Gue Tiany, admit defeat. I will immediately withdraw from this competition. Please spare this child." Gue Taibao was his only son, and he could not just watch his son die here. Father, save me, save me." Gue Taibao's voice trembled. He couldn't even stand up, and his hands hugged onto Gue Tiany's thighs. Gue Tiany once again said, "As long as you can let this child go, I will give up on any condition that I have to agree to." Long Fei said faintly, "And if I say no?" Gue Tiany's gaze tightened and said, "If you really aren't letting this child go, then my Gui's family will give it our all to fight you." His eyes were determined. As Gue Tiany spoke, he lowered his voice and said, "I know who captured Lin Shuang." Long Fei's eyes widened, and he immediately asked, "Who is it?" Gue Tiany said, "I can tell you, but you must let him go." Long Fei's eyes turned sinister, the anger in his heart surging. His body suddenly moved and landed in front of Gue Tiany with a step. He grabbed his collar and lifted him up in the air and said with a heavy voice, "Do you have the qualifications to negotiate with me?" Buzz! As he spoke, the aura on Long Fei's body fiercely surged, and the powerful might of a dragon directly crushed Gue Tiany's mind. Gue Tiany instantly broke out in cold sweat, his heart no longer throbbing from the pressure. He had never seen such a terrifying gaze in his life before. Too terrifying. It was like being watched by a death god. He could die at any moment. Gue Tiany's lips trembled and said, Yes, it's the City Lord Wu Fengtian." City Lord Wu Fengtian? Long Fei's gaze tensed up. He casually threw Gue Tiany to the side and turned to look at Wu Fengtian. Wu Fengtian sat there high up, and the corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. He didn't panic in the slightest, because even if Long Fei found out his identity, what could he do? With the trump card in his hand, what need did he have to fear? Wu Fengtian looked at the expression in Long Fei's eyes and laughed lightly. He sent a sound transmission. He is right. Those two women are indeed in my hands. If you want them to live, then obediently do as I say. Long Fei's pupils contracted rapidly. His killing intent intensified. Wu Fengtian laughed. Brat, either you behave yourself, or I will make it so that you will never see them again. Kill Gui Tianyi. A loud sound was heard. Long Fei suddenly turned and rushed out. Wu Fengtian started laughing, looked at Gui Tianyi and said, Junior brother, oh junior brother, you can't beat me. As soon as he finished laughing, his expression suddenly twisted, because Long Fei had lifted his son, Wu Yilong, into the air. C3519. C3519 1 second. Remember, pin. Interesting pavilion www. Beak. Come, read for free. Wu Yilong had been injured by Long Fei's sword chi from the beginning, and had not recovered yet. Under the power of the ancient dragon body, he was like a little chick that had been lifted up. He could only make some weak struggles. It was also at this time. Wu Fengtian suddenly stood up. Little bastard, what are you trying to do? This time, he was completely flustered. Seeing that his own son's life was in the hands of another, Wu Fengtian started to become nervous. However, Long Fei sneered sinisterly and said, I hate people who threaten me the most. As soon as he finished speaking, crack, he directly crushed Wu Yilong's neck in front of Wu Fengtian, causing blood to gush out. Wu Yilong struggled for a bit, then lost all signs of life. Ding! Congratulations to the player Long Fei for killing Wu Yilong. Do you wish to absorb his realm? No. Long Fei rejected him and looked at Wu Fengtian coldly. The entire fighting arena was silent. This was the son of the mayor. Was it Wu Fengtian's heart and soul? His neck exploded just like that? Killed just like that? This, many people's minds could not react in time. They did not know who gave Long Fei the courage to do this, or who gave him the guts to do so. This was simply courting death. Wu Fengtian shouted in fury, one dragon. Rumble! The flaming chi exploded and directly sent the surrounding disciples flying. With one step forward, the entire stand sank down. A 10-centimeter deep footprint appeared under his feet. His figure flashed and directly flew toward the fighting stage. Anger. He was infuriated. Lin Yuantu's mind tensed up. Crap. Wu Fengtian has gone crazy. At the same time, Gui Tianyi sneered and secretly said, Senior brother, who can't fight who? Ha-ha! Gui Taibao also laughed excitedly. You think you can snatch the qualifications from me, a defeated opponent like you? Do you think that you are worthy? Not waiting for him to finish, Long Fei's eyes turned sinister, and he shouted out, Are you happy? Gui Taibao looked up, his eyes staring blankly at the ground, not daring to move. Boom! The aura from Long Fei's body moved and directly blew Gui Taibao's head off. Last time you deserved to die. I let you live for a few more days, yet you still dare to be cocky in front of me. Gui Tianyi also shouted out loudly, Imperial Guard. He was enraged. Staring at Long Fei, he roared hysterically, I'll kill you. Boom! With a heavy sound, the power of the big swordsman burst forth. He waved his sword, boom, boom. Hundreds of gigantic sword images superimposed onto it. It attacked Long Fei. Wu Yilong was the only son of the city, Lord Wu Fengtian. Gui Taibao was the only son of the Gui's family's patriarch, and both of them had the skills and talent of the Neon City. Furthermore, Gui Taibao was an outer disciple of the ancient antiquity. But they were all crushed by Long Fei. Whether it was Gui Tianyi or Wu Fengtian, both of them were enraged at this moment. What they wanted to do was to tear Long Fei into pieces. He couldn't hold it in even a second. However, this was exactly what Long Fei wanted. Yesterday, he used up too much energy. Under the ancient dragon body's effects, Long Fei's body was unable to endure it any longer, so he had to quickly resolve this issue. It was precisely to anger Wu Fengtian, so that he would not have time to deal with Lin Shuang'er and Phoenix. As long as he died, Phoenix would not be in danger for a while. Seeing the two experts charge towards him, Long Fei's body gently sank as he gently breathed out, "Phew." Elder Yang also stared intently at Long Fei. "Die, little bastard, return my son's life." With both swords in hand, Wu Fengtian unleashed advanced sword moves. The sword images were like rain, striking towards Long Fei's berserk storm, locking him in place as he retreated. On the other side, Gue Tianyi also attacked with full strength. The strongest sword technique resonated with Long Fei. Absorb. Long Fei inhaled slightly as the long sword in his hand moved. Boom! The sword energy combusted, and the illusion of a dragon appeared in his hands. Ascending dragon. The draconic shadow moved, directly piercing through the heavens. Facing the two strongest warriors in Neon City, Long Fei stabbed his sword into the ground. Roar! With a roar, the giant dragon flipped over and smashed its head towards the ground. Rumble! 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 Explosions thundered throughout the arena as the entire arena shook and cracked. Gue Tianyi's sword broke. The sword shadow was crushed. Wu Fengtian's several thousand sword rain were crushed into fine powder, and her entire body was pushed back nonstop. Finally, she stopped. Her face was pale white, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Gue Tianyi did the same, fresh blood gushing out. His face was ashen. The gashes on their heads had already decreased by a large amount. At the same time, this move had sobered them up quite a bit. They never thought that Long Fei was actually this strong. Fighting both of them at the same time actually gave him the upper hand. The crowd went into an uproar. This is impossible. Is he really Apprentice Realm warrior or not? Is the Apprentice Realm really so powerful? Oh my god. But Gue Tianyi and Wu Fengtian, the two strongest people in the Neon City, are actually unexpectedly injured. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. The Apprentice Realm was actually this strong? Elder Yang's gaze tensed up as he stared at Long Fei. He was equally shocked in his heart. Genius, genius. He is simply a super genius. Ha ha. No matter what, I will bring him into ancient antiquity. He was incomparably excited. However, he was worried too, because when Long Fei released the power of the ancient dragon body, he immediately sensed it draining from Long Fei's body at a very fast rate. He wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Once the power of the ancient dragon body disappeared, Long Fei would definitely not be a match for any of them. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei. He turned his right hand, and a silver needle appeared on his two fingers. At this moment, Gue Tianyi took the lead and said loudly, "Elder Yang, my son is an outer disciple of the ancient antiquity. You should take charge of this matter by killing the disciple of the ancient antiquity." Yang Dao's gaze did not waver as he said, "As long as you have not entered the ancient antiquity, then you can't be considered as a disciple of the ancient antiquity, so your son is not a disciple of the ancient antiquity. Furthermore, this is a competition between Neon City S and I, an outsider, can't even manage it." Gue Tianyi's gaze tensed up. Wu Fengtian immediately said, "Little bastard, kneel down right now. If not, I will kill them immediately." Long Fei's mouth turned sinister. He sneered, "Kill them? Do you think I'll give you a chance?" He raised his eyes and pulled out his sword from the ground. Ascending dragon. Roar. A draconic roar rang out from underground. Gue Tianyi and Wu Fengtian looked at each other, then slowly looked underneath their feet as their bodies began to tremble. Why did he stab the sword into the ground? Why did he stab the sword into the ground? What was an ascending dragon? It was not a giant dragon crushing down, but a dragon diving into the ground, rising up into the sky. This was called ascending dragon. The eyes of the two tightened. They wanted to escape, but it was already too late. A powerful force rushed out from beneath their feet. Roar! The ferocious phantom dragon. Walala! Break through the earth. Swallowing them all in one gulp was like a little fishman's ultimate move. A large shark rushed out from the ground and swallowed them all in one gulp. It was just that, compared to the shark, this dragon was even more ferocious. With a single gulp, he was sent flying into the air. When his health fell to 0, he landed heavily on the ground. Bam! Bam! Both of them were on the verge of death when they hit the ground. At this moment, the entire arena was silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Even a pin drop could be heard. Too terrifying. No one would have thought that it would be such a result. And even more people thought that Long Fei sword moves were actually so strange, that even Yang Dao had a face full of bewilderment. What a strong move. It's so hard to defend against it. Brat, you've really surprised me. Ha! Awesome. Too awesome. Yang Dao was indescribably satisfied with Long Fei. Now, he was even more determined in his heart. No matter what, he must bring Long Fei into the ancient antiquity. Thinking of those scenes, he couldn't help but become excited. Lin Yuantu was stunned. He had always guessed that Long Fei was someone from the divinity, and the feeling Long Fei gave him right now was that of a divine powerhouse. Powerhouse above them. A real ancient strong. He was simply too strong. And Long Fei were people from completely different worlds. Long Fei walked forward step by step until he was in front of Gui Tianyi, and then he exploded with a stomp. The health bar returned to 0. Ding! Congratulations to the player Long Fei for killing Gui Tianyi. Do you wish to absorb his cultivation? No, it still didn't explode. Gui Tianyi, this kind of monster, was not even considered a boss. Even if he dropped it, nothing good would come out of it. And then, Long Fei then walked in front of Wu Fengtian and asked coldly, "Threatening this daddy?" Blood trickled out of the corner of Wu Fengtian's mouth as he watched Long Fei walk towards him. His body continuously shrank backwards as he said, "Master, I was wrong. Please spare my life. I won't dare to do it again. Never again. Please, my lord." Long Fei leisurely walked forward and said, "Threatening lousy, and then threatening again. Didn't you just issue the order very happily? Send people from the Black Wolf mercenary to kill me? You didn't think that I would be able to kill the Wolf King, right? You didn't expect me to annihilate 14 clans in one day, did you? You still didn't expect me to stand in front of you, did you? Some people are not meant to be offended. Do you understand?" Wu Fengtian said again and again, I understand, I won't dare to do it again, I won't dare to do it again." At this moment, nothing was more important than one's life. His heart was filled with chilliness as he watched Long Fei approach, as if the god of death was approaching him with a sickle in his hand. His body couldn't stop trembling. Long Fei said lightly, "Later? Do you think you have a future?" Wu Fengtian's body trembled as he said, No, you can't kill me. Lin Shuang'er and that little girl are still in my hands." Long Fei said, "Are you still threatening me?" Wu Fengtian's body trembled even more violently as he said, No, I don't dare. Master, exchange their lives for mine. As long as you agree, I will immediately have them released." Long Fei's eyes moved, and he said, "Immediately get people to release them?" Wu Fengtian said, "Right, as long as you let me go." Long Fei said lightly, "On account of how pitiful you are, I agree." While they were talking, Long Fei stopped. Wu Fengtian heaved a sigh of relief. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He exhaled deeply and said, "Thank you, master." Long Fei said, "Let them go now." Wu Fengtian immediately said, Yes, I will immediately call for reinforcements." "Butler! Butler!" Wu Fengtian shouted a few times. An elderly quickly walked forward with a bow, not daring to look straight into Long Fei's eyes. When he walked to Long Fei's side, his legs were floating, as if he could die at any moment. "Master, please instruct me." The old man's voice was dry as he spoke in a hurry. Wu Fengtian said, Go, release the 2 young misses from the secret room." The elder immediately said, "All right, I will go now." With that, He turned and left. Long Fei said lightly, "Wait." The old man's body shuddered, and he came to a stop. Wu Fengtian said, "Master, I do not dare to play any tricks. They will soon appear in front of you, I swear." Long Fei said, "That's good. This way I can let you travel safely." Wu Fengtian's gaze tensed up, and he roared, "Little bastard, you bastard. Didn't you say you'd let me go? You." Long Fei grinned and said, "You believe in my words too? Is your brain filled with water?" Anger flared in his eyes. A sword cut Wu Fengtian's neck, and blood spurted out. Wu Fengtian's eyes were wide open as he died with grievance. Long Fei looked at the shivering old man and asked, "What are you still standing there for? Why aren't you letting them go?" The old man instantly ran out, hating the fact that this old lady had given birth to less than 2 legs. Long Fei's eyes swept across them and looked at the surrounding quiet grandstands. Long Fei laughed coldly and said, "Weren't you trying to kill me just now? Do you want me to die? Come. You want to kill my people? You want me to die? Now, I'll give all of you a chance. You could do it one by one, or you could do it in groups." His voice wasn't loud, but it resounded in everyone's mind. At the same time, everyone's heart trembled. Right now, no one dared to look at Long Fei because they were afraid that they would be stared at by his eyes. "No one," Long Fei replied heavily. The entire auction didn't dare make a sound. All of their heads were lowered and were crushed by Long Fei alone. Long Fei retracted his sword and said coldly, "Don't be cocky in the future, or else you might even die one day." Not long later, the arena entrance opened. Hubby, she did not have the slightest feeling of being caught, and instead had a face full of happiness. She even laughed out loud when she saw Long Fei. He directly ran to Long Fei's side, jumped on Long Fei's body in an instant, grabbed Long Fei's waist with both of his legs, and hung his hands around Long Fei's neck. Lin Shuang'er also walked forward and she said shyly, "Thank you." It was also at this time Yang Dao's figure descended. Long Fei's talent, the sword techniques he released, as well as the powerful strength he released, made Yang Dao excited. Long Fei's talent, the sword techniques he released, as well as the powerful strength he released, made Yang Dao excited. Ancient world, anything is possible. Rank, realm, was only a way to measure strength, but not absolutely. The higher the level, the stronger it was. However, this did not mean that the lower the level, the weaker the person would be. This was the ancient world, a primal plane. It could produce countless different types of power, some of which had never been seen before. And those who had this kind of power were known as ancient elites. They are a special kind of group. If any ancient capable person were to win, they would eventually become an ancient almighty powerhouse. They would be ranked in the immortal class and become a super powerhouse among the divinity. Other than the ancient elites, there was another possibility. The ancient immortals of the divinity would not be able to break through to the ancient seal because they would be unable to cultivate their memories anew. This kind of person would definitely leave a strong foundation in his body to ensure that he wouldn't be killed while he was cultivating. No matter what it was, in the world of mortals and ancient world, they were all super monstrous existences. When encountering this kind of person, one would definitely not let them go. Even though Yang Dao was unable to confirm that Long Fei was one of the two, but Long Fei's talent told him that he was a rare talent and must be brought into the ancient antiquity. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei and said, "Little brother, maybe you will think that I am too troublesome, but no matter how serious I am, I will solemnly invite you to the ancient antiquity with me." He was extremely sincere. His eyes were filled with excitement and a worry that Long Fei would reject him again. Phoenix asked first, "Is ancient antiquity strong?" Lin Shuang'er's voice trembled. She did not expect that the elder who beat up the ancient antiquity would actually extend an invitation to Long Fei in such a sincere manner. She seemed to be begging Long Fei, as she said, the strongest sect within a circumference of millions of kilometers, a being that looks like a giant. Her eyes were blazing with passion, and she almost agreed on Long Fei's behalf. For any martial artist, this was a rare opportunity. It was the dream of every cultivator in the Neon City. Phoenix's small eyes darted around. It's that strong. Since he's so strong, then it must be fun. Husband promises him. Without waiting for Long Fei to speak, Phoenix looked at Yang Dao and said, I made the decision on behalf of my husband and promised you. I will follow you to the ancient antiquity. Yang Dao smiled and looked at Long Fei. So what if the little girl agreed? What he wanted was Long Fei. Long Fei asked, Can I bring my relatives? Yang Dao's eyes were filled with excitement as he said, You can bring a servant to take care of him. Long Fei said, Just one. Heir. Yang Dao nodded and said, I can't hide it from you. One person can only bring one servant. This is the sex rule, and I can't change it. Long Fei couldn't help but look at Lin Shuanger. Lin Shuanger immediately said, Don't look at me. I don't want to go to ancient antiquity right now. I'm not ready yet, and I don't want you to bring me. I want to qualify through my own efforts, and I don't want to be your servant. Who doesn't want to go? Even being a servant in ancient antiquity was something that many people did not even dare think about. However, there was only one spot, and she could not let Phoenix stay. Yang Dao took out a small bottle from the space ring and said, There are 10 yuan spirit pills here. With your current cultivation and talent, you will be able to break through to the 6th stage of Big Swordsman in at most 3 years. The first thing he did was to obtain the Great Yuan Spirit Pill. Everyone present was shocked. Lin Yuanta became even more excited. Even the S of the biggest families in the Neon City couldn't produce a single Great Yuan Spirit Pill, because 10 Ling Dan could make 10 Powerhouse S. Long Fei looked at Lin Shuanger and said, Then I'll wait for you at ancient antiquity first. Lin Shuanger took the spirit pellet, stared at Long Fei, and said fiercely, Who wants you to wait? After saying that, she daintily turned around and left. The moment she turned around, her tears fell. He bit his tongue to prevent himself from crying out loud. She had never thought that a man would kill for her, become enemies with the entire city, and go crazy for her. Her heart was subdued by Long Fei. Furthermore, the moment she saw Long Fei, she was attracted to him. He didn't know why. It was as if she couldn't control herself. Long Fei looked at Lin Shuanger's receding figure and did not say anything. He believed that Lin Shuanger would definitely obtain the qualifications to participate in the next round. Phoenix muttered, Big Sister Shuang. She was very reluctant. Long Fei looked at Phoenix and gently patted her head. He wanted to send Phoenix to Phoenix Valley, but where was Phoenix Valley? In a mortal world? Or was it in the world of divinity? What he needed to do now was not to search for some Phoenix Valley, but to protect the Phoenix. Those black-clothed Powerhouse S would definitely return to the Neon City to search, and he could not stay here for long. Ancient antiquity was a good choice. It was the same for Long Fei as well. He needed an even higher ground, and only then could he see much further. He wanted to find the Dragon Vein Mountain. He had to find the God-Living Mountain, find the Phoenix Valley. He wanted to find the Emperor Xian. And then, Long Fei looked at Yang Dao and said, All right, I agree. Yang Dao let out a long sigh of relief in his heart and spoke with an excited expression on his face. Ha ha, I'm really afraid that you will not agree. Long Fei laughed. What if I don't agree? Yang Dao said, If you don't agree, I will kidnap you. You don't have any extra energy to release that kind of powerful energy, so I am confident in kidnapping you. If we can't kidnap him. He did not finish his sentence. Long Fei was not stupid. He knew what the rest of his words meant. If he allowed a future powerhouse to be lost, it would be better to kill him off. What made Long Fei shocked was that he had actually seen the power of the ancient dragon body on his own body. This world was much stronger than he had imagined. I wonder what level of existence Emperor Xian is at in the ancient world. Long Fei secretly clenched his fists. Before I meet you, I will do everything I can to become stronger. I will never let myself lose again, not even once. This was the ancient world. Long Fei could not afford to lose. Yang Dao smiled slightly and said, I was just joking with you. Don't be serious. All right, now follow me. I still need to go pick up the other two people. Finished. Yang Dao summoned his right hand, and a huge golden palm leaf fan flew out. Stepping on it, he said, "You guys come up too. If you use your feet to walk, I wonder how long it would take to reach ancient antiquity." Long Fei held the phoenix and stood on a palm leaf fan. The phoenix was not afraid. It had a calm expression and only muttered, "Isn't this kind of flying treasure a little too weak?" To the phoenix, this kind of palm leaf fan, flying magical equipment, was not high enough. To the phoenix, this kind of palm leaf fan, flying magical equipment, was not high enough. But for Long Fei, it was different. The ancient world was much bigger than the universal realm. If he could get a flying treasure, it would be much more convenient, and he had to go to many places. There had to be a flying treasure. It was just that the feather god wings he brought from universal realm could not be used. Let's go to Sea City to pick up two people first, then head there. Yang Dao said, "That kid from Sea City is also a fierce person. He might have the potential to become an ancient energy cultivator." Long Fei withdrew his train of thought and asked, "What is the potential of an ancient ability user?" Yang Dao laughed. "There are people who possess the special power of the ancient world. These people are called ancient elites, and once this power erupts, they might be able to become an ancient almighty powerhouse. They might even be able to obtain the divine realm. Someone who possesses a special ancient power? Then, do I count as an ancient capable person?" Long Fei asked. "His ancient dragon body is a special power? That's not it, is it?" Long Fei muttered in his heart and said, "The strength in your body. I can't see through it either. If you were an ancient ability user, then logically speaking, your cultivation should not be so low. But I've never seen that kind of power erupt from your body. To be able to kill someone above your cultivation level. That is truly amazing. How could anyone see through the power of the ancient dragon body?" Phoenix opened her small mouth, grabbed on a Long Fei's arm, and said, of course my husband is good. Why don't you see who my husband is?" "Ha!" Yang Dao laughed and said, "Oh right, I still don't know what your names are." Just as Phoenix was about to speak, Long Fei took a step ahead and said, "I'm Long Fei. She's called Bing Bing." Phoenix mumbled, but did not mind. Phoenix's identity could not be revealed. The name Phoenix alone could not be spoken. That night, the power the black-clothed man released was too strong. Long Fei could not understand it at all. The most important thing was that such a tragic battle had occurred, and with such a loud explosion of power, no one in Neon City knew what had happened, as if they were not in the same space. Long Fei wanted to protect this girl. He had to protect her well. In his heart, he always felt that this little girl was related to him in a very intimate way. Right? "Elder, you mentioned the divine space. What kind of space is that? Isn't the ancient world the most elite plane? Can it be that there is a more powerful plane up there?" This was the first time Long Fei had heard of the God realm when he had entered the ancient world. Yang Dao looked at the sky and said, "Ancient world is indeed a peak plane and is divided into two dimensions within the ancient world. The first is the place we are currently at, which is also known as the mortal realm. The other is the divine space. They seem to be on the same plane, but they are two completely different worlds. The people in the divine space are all ancient almighty powerhouses, as well as those ancient races that have been here since the birth of the ancient world. In a space like the one we are currently in, it would be better said that we are from the mortal realm. In the eyes of the divine space, we're just a bunch of ants." Yang Dao smiled bitterly and said, "Don't be discouraged. Even though we are ants, ants can still become gods. As long as your cultivation reaches the qualifications to enter the divine space, you can break through the shackles of the flying into the virtual and become a divine powerhouse of the ancient world." Phoenix muttered, "What's so good about being a god?" Yang Dao laughed and said, "Of course it's good for the overlord to increase his lifespan. What he cultivates is the purest power in the ancient world, becoming an ancient almighty powerhouse. He is the ruler, and after reaching the highest realm, He can even break through the void and enter the starry sky continent to roam the wider plains. This is every fighter's dream. A fighter's goal is to become stronger. He stepped over one obstacle after another, stepping onto the mountain peak after another. Brave hearts were fearless. When Yang Dao said these words, his eyes were also blazing with passion. Towards Powerhouse, Long Fei only entered the ancient world to kill the Emperor Xian, and breaking through the ancient world was something that would happen in the future, so he was not too concerned about these things. Of course, in his heart, he yearned to become stronger than anyone else. Long Fei said, "Elder, you just said that the ancient natives were those ancient races that existed when the ancient world was born. What race do they have?" The most famous among them was the Dragon Clan of the Dragon Vein Mountain. They were once the hegemons of the ancient world, and with the Dragon God's army, they could be said to be an existence that swept through everything. At that time, they were the unmatched absolute hegemons of the ancient world. It was rumored that the dragon race was exterminated, and even the Dragon King Mountain was destroyed. The dragon tribe is going downhill. I think it won't be long before they disappear from ancient world. Long Fei frowned. Phoenix's brows knitted tightly as she clenched her fists. Her pupils were about to change. Long Fei felt the power of the phoenix undergo a change and immediately grabbed her hand. Buzz. Boom. Rumble. The moment he held onto the phoenix's hand, Long Fei felt that the inside of the phoenix's body was like a battlefield, constantly releasing loud booms. The feeling was too strong. Long Fei was afraid that the phoenix would instantly turn into a phoenix. Hence he said in a low voice, "Bing, bing, bing, bing." When the phoenix sensed Long Fei's voice, the anger in its heart slowly weakened. It looked at Long Fei with eyes filled with tears and muttered with its mouth starting to cry. They felt extremely wronged. It was as if she had seen the destruction of the dragon race with her own eyes. And, in fact, she and Master Xian came from the Dragon Vein Mountain. However, she didn't say it because she couldn't say it. Long Fei lightly patted her shoulder and said, "It's fine, it's fine." Yang Dao said, "The strong preys on the weak, and the powerhouse is the king. This is the rule of survival in this world. Whether it is in person or in a sect, it is the same for a clan. If you are not strong enough, you may be destroyed." Now that the dragon race has appeared, so has the phoenix race. Ancient Mu clan. Ancient clan extermination. Tang clan. Beast tribe. The heavenly capital tribe. The immortal cities clan. Time passes. Time changes. No one can continue to flourish. There will always be a low point. As long as we can endure the low point, as long as we don't die, we will have a chance to make a comeback. So, life is very important. Yang Dao said, "If there was no life, then there was nothing. As long as there was life, there were unlimited possibilities." Long Fei's heart quivered. Mother's family, father's family, the Phoenix family, Tang Long's family, the Senior Mia's family are all existences that are on the verge of destruction. It seems like everything depends on me. Elder, then which family is the strongest family in divinity? Yang Dao said, "God's tribe. He is now the king of the ancient times, and calls himself the Emperor Xian." God's tribe, God's tribe. Long Fei frowned and thought in his heart. Could it be that the shrine is only a part of the God's tribe, the branch of the universal realm? Emperor Xian arranged for descendant of God's tribe to enter the ancient world long ago. That's within reason. If I were Emperor Xian, I wouldn't have arranged for all my clansmen to be stationed in a universal realm for the past billions of years. God's tribe. Long Fei clenched his teeth tightly. Yang Dao said, "The name God's tribe was given by the Emperor Xian himself. Even though the other name is given to the God's tribe S, there aren't many clan members there. However, the Emperor Xian was extremely strong, so it could be said that none of the ancient races in the ancient world were his match. It could be said that he was an existence that was invincible in the ancient clans, and that was also why he was the one who established the God's tribe. Otherwise, how could the name God's tribe be created by him? Sigh. to say that these are things that we cannot reach. Many of the things that I have said are just rumors. Just treat it as a story. Yang Dao realized that Long Fei was extremely serious. Long Fei asked, "Then Emperor Xian should be the strongest person in ancient world?" Even though the Emperor Xian was the king of the ancient times, it was hard to say if he was the strongest person in the ancient world. After all, this was the ancient world, and there were still many unknown places in this plane that had existed for tens of billions of years. These transmission, even the powerhouse S of the God realm, did not dare to recklessly enter the forbidden grounds. No one knows what kind of powerhouse S are inside. Kid, you must remember this. No one could be strong for a lifetime, and any legend would be broken. Facing the number one hegemon of the ancient world, who was also the first patriarch of the Dragon Clan, Long Batian. Was he awesome? He had truly swept ancient world away. But what happened in the end? He had fallen. The Emperor Xian was even worse than Long Batian. At the very least, the forbidden grounds that I mentioned earlier, which Long Batian had entered before, has not been accomplished by Emperor Xian. Yang Dao said. At the same time, he was also reminding and motivating Long Fei that there was nothing in this world that couldn't be surpassed. Long Fei nodded his head. "I will remember," smiled faintly, and said, "Your talent is not bad. After entering ancient antiquity, I will recommend a good master to you. At that time, if you cultivate for 100 years, you might even reach the level of an almighty powerhouse. There is a possibility of you becoming an ascendant." An almighty powerhouse? Ascendant level divine space? It is also an incentive. How many have done it over the years? It was too difficult. Let alone 100 years, even if it were 1,000 years or 10,000 years, not many would be able to do it. But Long Fei was surprised in his heart. 100 years. I simply do not have that much time to waste. At most 10 years, within 10 years, I will definitely rush into the divine space. If anyone else were to hear this, they would probably laugh their teeth out. Becoming an almighty powerhouse in 10 years. It was simply a pipe dream. With the system, Long Fei was just a bug. Moreover, he was a maniac at cultivation, and even more so, a madman who did not care for his own life. At this time, Yang Dao pointed at a city that was built atop a tall mountain in the distance, stood up, and said, "We are almost there." Beneath the mountain was a sea. It was so vast that it was connected to the sky in the distance. Yang Dao smiled slightly and said, "The power that this guy is cultivating should be the power of some kind of hard stone, so his body is very strong. His cultivation is big swordsman, but even with the sword faction's peak strength, it's hard to harm him." Long Fei was shocked. That abnormal? A level 10 skill couldn't even break through the defenses? This was not abnormal. This was extremely abnormal. Moreover, if this was just defense, then what about his strength? In a game, this type of person could only be described by one profession, super tank. If you were to stand in front of him, you wouldn't be able to kill him no matter what. Yang Dao said, "The other one is also more interesting. He is a cultivation ghost." "What is cultivation ghost?" Long Fei asked. Yang Dao smiled slightly and said, "This person's brain is abnormally developed. We ordinary people have a brain. He has 4. And the brain is twice as developed as we are." Long Fei was stunned. 4 brains. And the brain is twice as developed as ours. Is he even human? Long Fei had always thought that he was abnormal enough. But now it seemed that his level of abnormal was not even worth mentioning in the ancient world. Yang Dao said, 4 brains are not strange. There are 8 more brains in the divine space, and all of them are 100% developed. Long Fei, what he saw in the Neon City, felt that the things he came into contact with were similar to those in other planes. But now, it seemed that the Neon City was really too small. The ancient world was much fiercer than he imagined. Not to mention the 8 brains, the human brain development level on Earth was only a tiny bit. If it was 100%, then this person could even be called a god, an invincible and terrifying existence. Phoenix, who was at the side, had a disdainful look on her face. Yang Dao also did not pay too much attention to the Phoenix. The feeling Phoenix gave him was that of a mischievous little girl. He could see the special strength in Long Fei's body, but he could not see the power within the Phoenix's body. This was also because Phoenix had never fought before. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei in shock and said, "There are people with all kinds of abilities in ancient world, and those who can enter the ancient antiquity are all a bit special." Long Fei felt as if he had entered a special ability world. Everyone had their own unique abilities. An inexplicable excitement rose in his heart, because it must be amazing to be in such a world. Long Fei looked at Yang Dao and asked curiously, "Elder, what is your special ability?" Yang Dao gave a slight smile and said while trying to keep him in suspense, "You'll know in the future, ha." He did not say it out loud. "All right, let's go down." Yang Dao's chi moved. The fan flew towards Sea City. Phoenix, who was beside Long Fei, whispered, "Hubby, do you want to know his capabilities?" Long Fei turned his face to look at Phoenix. Phoenix giggled and said, "I can help you." Long Fei shook his head. No need. He did not want Phoenix to use her power. The feeling the Phoenix gave Long Fei was that it possessed a formidable power. This kind of strength was something that even his ancient dragon body could not resist. The Phoenix had said that her memories had also been sealed by the seal. As long as she opened her memories, her strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Then again, Long Fei didn't want the Phoenix to reveal himself. He definitely would not allow the scene in the dream to happen again. Absolutely not. Sea City, Sea City's Lord's Mansion. Sea City, Sea City's Lord's Mansion. The empty martial arts arena continued to emit dull sounds of impact. Boom, boom, boom. The voice did not come from the martial arts arena, but from the other side of the training grounds. It came from under a cliff. A man who looked to be around 20 years old had thick chains coiled around his arms. The muscles on his entire body were knotted, and the veins looked like giant earthworms beneath his skin. Every inch of the muscles carried with it great power. It was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. He was nearly 3 meters tall and weighed more than 500 kilograms. Standing there, he looked like a piece of heavy granite. At this moment, his arms were wrapped with chains, and those thick chains extended to the bottom of the cliff. Just those chains alone weighed several tens of thousands of pounds, and he continued to wave his fists. Every time he swung his fist, the chain would tighten, and a boom could be heard from the bottom of the cliff. Boom! His fist tore through the air and rumbled under the cliff. Bang, bang, bang. The man's eyes were extremely serious. Every punch would release all of the power in his body. He would form a group with his punches 100 times. After executing a set of punches, his gaze would involuntarily turn to another direction. Under a big tree in martial arts arena, a youth was half reclining under a tree, holding a dogtail grass in his mouth and crossing his legs. His face was covered by a straw hat, and it was unknown whether he was sleeping or thinking. Every time the sound of the collision stopped, he would lightly say, "Continue." The big man swung his fist again. Even though his entire body was drenched, he did not complain and just continued to wave his fists. One punch, one strike after another. "Young master, he's here. It's here. That elder from ancient antiquity is here." A servant ran into the training field and saw the big guy waving his fist. He exclaimed, "Foolish brother, your strength has increased again?" Then he ran to the edge of the cliff to take a look and said with even more shock, "Foolish brother, the deep-sea mysterious iron has already been pulled out of the water by you." The speed of his punches was slower by a second. The youth under the tree immediately asked, "Did you hear that?" The simple-minded person immediately said, "Sorry." He quickly waved it around, not daring to stay for even a second longer. The youth under the tree did not move. He still lazily leaned on the tree, as if he did not hear the servant's words. "Young master, why aren't you excited? The elders of the ancient antiquity have arrived. Master asked me to call you guys to the front courtyard." The young man bowed slightly and said indifferently, "It's done. Why are you making such a big fuss over it? Didn't you want me to go to ancient antiquity?" If I let him come here himself, I'd be too lazy to move. That person under his name said anxiously, "This is the order from the old master. He wants you to leave quickly." The young man replied impatiently, "I'm not going. So what if I'm an ancient antiquity? I'm not interested." Ancient antiquity was also a giant sect with a circumference of trillions of kilometers. It was extremely strong and was a place a warrior would dream of, but in his eyes, he did not want to go, because he wasn't interested. He had to cultivate once he got to the ancient antiquity, missions, classes. There were all sorts of things going on. He did not want to be bothered by them. How good would it be to stay in the sea city? Eat as much as you want, sleep as much as you want. No one could stop him. Free and unfettered. Exhilarated. He had no interest in cultivation at all. To him, there was nothing that could not be solved with his brain. If one mind was insufficient, then 2, 3, 4. Ever since he was young, he had never encountered a situation that he could not resolve. In the sea city, no one dared to play with him. Even experts with a higher cultivation level wouldn't dare to play with him because, while playing, he suddenly realized that he was about to be killed. Moreover, a monstrous genius like him could easily break through with just a little bit of effort. Not even a year from now would be able to match up to him. In the sea city, he was the biggest monster. He is also the city lord's youngest son, Bailey Tianhai. In the entire sea city, only someone as simple-minded as him could play with him. Of course, it wasn't that the simpleton was fighting with him, but rather that the simpleton could always be played by him without getting angry. No matter how he played with him, the simpleton was the type of existence that would not die. His skin was thick and rough, and he would not allow his sword to pierce through. He was also the second largest monster in the sea city. When Bailey II told his son to fish up the deep-sea dark iron from the cliff, he immediately called him Master Chun and used this method to pull him out of the water. That piece of deep-sea mystical iron weighs 1,000,000 pounds. He was actually pulled out of the water like this. Young master, the old master said that if you don't go, then the great grannies sighed. Bailey Tianhai's body quivered and bounced up. What does grandmother want to do? F***CK. Didn't you say earlier that it was grandmother's order? Why didn't you say so earlier? Bailey Tianhai wasn't afraid of anyone. He was only afraid of his grandmother, who doted on him dearly. Since he was young, he had no mother. His grandmother had brought him up, so he had always been obedient to her. If he disobeyed, then his grandmother would just cry, and he would be hanged. The key was, Bailey Tianhai couldn't win against his grandmother every time. Just as Bailey Tianhai was about to leave, a few people walked over from the entrance of the training grounds. Bailey Tianhai's expression retracted and leaned onto the tree without interest. He bit his dogtail grass at the corner of his mouth and looked towards another place. Tianhai, why haven't you come to greet the elder? Bailey too replied heavily. Yang Dao looked at Bailey Tianhai, who was beneath the tree, and smiled faintly. It's all right, I'll go over. Bam! Bam! He punched twice more heavily. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. Long Fei looked at the big idiot, and his pupils tightened. What the F***K? The visual impact was too great. The simple-minded gave Long Fei the feeling of a heavy tank. The muscles on his body were too terrifying. Yang Dao's eyes flashed with a glint of light and said, he should be an idiot, right? Bailey too said, yes, he's an idiot. Yang Dao nodded his head and said, that's right, just as I expected, the talent that comes from possessing an ancient ability is within your body. Bailey too said in a low voice as well, Shuntian, hurry up and come greet the elders. The simple-minded person did not move and continued to wave his fist, saying, if the young master does not want to go, then neither will I. Bailey too's gaze tightened. He stared at Bailey Tianhai at the bottom of the tree. His head was on fire and said, Tianhai, if you dare not go to ancient antiquity, do you believe that I won't break your legs? Bailey Tianhai said with a face full of disdain, Father, can you beat me in a match or not? And you still want to break my legs? Bailey too's eyes flashed with anger. Bastard, can't I take care of you? He was about to go berserk. Bailey Tianhai immediately said, I can go to ancient antiquity, but there has to be a place that I can cultivate in. If no one can teach me, then what's the point in going? Yang Dao smiled lightly and said, Who can teach you? Bailey Tianhai said, Of course it's people smarter than me. If you want a fool to teach me, then why would I go? As he spoke, he glanced at Long Fei, who was beside Yang Dao, and the corner of his mouth lifted into a disdainful sneer. Ancient antiquity only accepts idiots for a while. Bailey, too, let out a heavy cry and said, Little brat, your skin is itchy, right? With your 4 brains, who can match yours? Don't you want to go? Isn't it? Bailey, too, was furious. At this moment, Long Fei said faintly, Are you very smart? Are you very smart? Are you very smart? Long Fei took a step forward. Geniuses always had a bit of pride in themselves. Not to mention this kind of genius with a demonic intelligence was even more conceited. From his eyes, it was easy to see that he really despised the people around him. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei, but did not stop him. Bailey Tianhai glanced at Long Fei and said, He's smarter than you. Phoenix pouted her lips in displeasure. Long Fei still had a smile on his face and said, How about this? Let's take a gamble. Bailey Tianhai said, A bet. Do you think you've won? Bailey Tianhai knew what kind of cultivation Long Fei had entered the training grounds. He knew all the sword techniques he trained in, and even knew all of his feet that stepped into the training grounds first. The 4-brain genius had intelligence like a demon. However, none of these were where Bailey Tianhai was powerful. His strongest point lay in his observations and observations. TL, OMG slash 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 OMG. A hair-thin observation. He seemed to be acting casually and looking down on them, but in reality, he was controlling everything in his surroundings, including the flow of his breathing, his gaze, and even his heartbeat. Long Fei said, Let's not talk about who wins. I just want to know if you dare. Bailey Tianhai's lips curved up as he laughed. Are you trying to provoke me? However, your talent should not be able to help you cultivate. Otherwise, your cultivation would not be at the second stage of the apprentice, and your footsteps would be unstable. So even if you are at the second stage of the apprentice, your talent should still be decent. This shouldn't be unstable. So either there's a problem with your legs, or you just enter the ancient world and aren't used to the gravity. Bailey Tianhai said in a neither hurried nor slow manner. If that's the case, then your ancient inherent skill should be pretty good to be able to break through to apprentice in such a short period of time. However, this is the ancient world. Your talent is far from enough. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei. Long Fei laughed. His expression did not change at all, and even the look in his eyes did not change. But his heart was filled with incomparable shock. Damn, you can tell from my footsteps that I'm someone who just entered the ancient world? This fellow. If we expose too much, I think we can probably calculate the 18 generations of my ancestors. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei's smile and said, You're using a smile to conceal yourself, and your expression doesn't fluctuate at all. You're concealing it extremely well, and you shouldn't be the age that you look on the surface. Enemy. His analysis made it seem as though he had always been by Long Fei's side. Long Fei laughed. This should be the first time we meet, right? Bailey Tianhai laughed disdainfully. So, you still want to bet with me? Do you think it will be useful for you to provoke me? Long Fei said, Since you know that I'm provoking you, then I want to provoke you for a bit. I'll ask you one question. If you answer it, I guarantee that Elder Yang will leave. Yang Dao was startled and looked at Long Fei. Bailey, too, immediately said, Tianhai, stop messing around. Regardless of whether or not you can learn anything in ancient antiquity, you must go. If you dare not go, don't blame me for letting your grandmother teach you a lesson. Bailey, too, was worried that Long Fei would lose, because, since Bailey Tianhai was born, he had never lost. His intellect was a super godlike existence. Bailey Tianhai said, "Even if you say it's useless, the elder has to agree." He really did not want to go to ancient antiquity. Yang Dao looked at Long Fei and paused for 2 seconds, then said, "All right, if you win, you can choose freely." Bailey Tianhai laughed. "It's a deal." Yang Dao replied, "I'll keep my word." Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei. His expression was incomparably arrogant, and he said madly, "No one can still trouble me. You're definitely going to lose." Bailey, too, knew his son's temperament. If he won, he would really not go to the ancient antiquity and could not help but say to Long Fei, "There is no problem that would be difficult to get him stay in. Astronomical geography, cultivation arrays, alchemy, refining, there is no problem that can stop him. Tianhai, if you dare not go, I'll flay you alive." Bailey Tianhai did not pay any attention to him, but looked at Long Fei and said, "I'm going to set the question." Very arrogant. Very arrogant. Yang Dao's brows also tightened and said, "His brain is way better than an ordinary person's." Bailey Tianhai's display of intelligence made Yang Dao extremely interested in him. If a monstrous genius like this were to enter the ancient antiquity, he would definitely cause a ruckus. Whether it was for cultivation or for the various scriptures and pavilions, such a genius was needed. He was worried that Long Fei would lose. Not only him and Bailey too, even the foolishness at the side thought that Long Fei would lose. He had yet to see anyone who could defeat Bailey Tianhai, and the entire Sea City was completely played with by him. Other than his great-grandmother, there was not a single person who was not afraid of Bailey Tianhai. Long Fei laughed and said, "Don't worry. No matter how strong the four-brain genius is, it is useless in front of me." Long Fei walked in front of Bailey Tianhai and said indifferently, "Listen carefully." Bailey Tianhai laughed in disdain. Suddenly, Long Fei pointed at the phoenix beside Yang Dao and asked with a serious expression, "What is her name?" Bailey Tianhai's eyes darkened as he looked at Long Fei in a daze. He shifted his gaze from Long Fei's body to Phoenix's. He was dumbfounded on the spot. Not only him, Yang Dao, Bailey too were also the same. They were all dumbstruck. Was there such an operation? He didn't understand it all. The simple-minded man was also stunned. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei, then looked at Phoenix. He could not answer. No matter how good one's brain was, how meticulous one's thoughts were, how detailed one's observation was, however, even if he wanted to blow up all four of his brains, he would not be able to think of this question. Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "Aren't you very arrogant? Isn't there no problem with getting you? Please answer now." He did not give the least bit of face as he mocked ferociously. Bailey Tianhai's face turned green. Very ugly. He had never thought that Long Fei would ask such a question, nor did he ever meet such a person. This was completely illogical. But he accepted the bet, and he did not limit the scope of the problem. It was because he was conceited, because he was arrogant, and because he believed that there were no problems with him. Now, he knew he had gone too far. After a long time, Bailey Tianhai heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was unwilling, he was willing to admit defeat. He wouldn't give up just because of this reason. He said, "I lost." These 3 words weighed 1,000 pounds. If not for hearing it with his own ears, Bailey too would not even believe that his son would say these words. Big Idiot stood there without moving as he mumbled, "Is there anyone more amazing than young Master Tianhai?" Long Fei laughed. This question came up too inexplicably. Bailey Tianhai said, "No, I'm being conceited." And then, Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei seriously, and then looked at Yang Dao, and said, "I'll go with you." When he finished speaking, he looked at Han and said heavily, "What are you still standing there for? Quickly pack up and go to ancient antiquity." Big Sis muttered. She walked to Bailey Tianhai's side and asked softly, "Brother Hai, do you want me to compete with him and get back at you?" The silly words made Bailey Tianhai pause for a moment. Yang Dao couldn't help but look at Long Fei. The 4 brain demons had all been solved by Long Fei. Then what about this simple-minded man with brute force? Yang Dao was still a little expectant in his heart, because Long Fei had exceeded his expectations time and time again. It was true when they were on the Neon City's fighting stage, and it was also true when they were facing Bailey Tianhai. Who would have thought that he would give such a simple answer, but one that no one could answer, let alone Bailey Tianhai? Even he himself was confused by Long Fei. The problem was simple, but it was also a killing move. This was the true meaning of a smart person. However, this time, he was facing a person with an extremely strong body who was born to be a fool. How was he going to deal with this? Long Fei looked at Xia. His muscles were knotted, just like a piece of hard granite. Moreover, judging from his expression, he was the type of person who was the hardest to deal with. However, Bailey Tianhai smacked Han's head and said, "I've already lost, and you still want to win? What? Do you want to defeat him and prove that you are stronger than me? Save it." A sudden change. Bailey Tianhai turned his head and walked towards the exit of the training grounds. He said lightly, "Go and pack up your things." The simple-minded man lowered his head and said, "Oh, there were no complaints, nor were there any complaints." He was like an old bull. Bailey, too, let out a heavy sigh of relief in his heart and said, "This kid, entering ancient antiquity was a huge matter, and he had great influence on it." He was afraid that his son would not want to go, so it was good. A problem was solved. Bailey, too, looked at Long Fei and said, "Little brother, thank you." He never thought that Long Fei would ask such a strange question. Long Fei said, "No need to thank me. He actually made his own decision a long time ago." It was obvious. Bailey Tianhai had been waiting. Long Fei could tell from his eyes that he had been waiting for Yang Dao's arrival the entire time. Just like him, there were too few things he had seen in the Neon City, and it was the same for the Sea City. In the entire Sea City, no one could surpass him. The city meant nothing to him. In his heart, he wanted to leave. He wanted to go to a more spacious area. He wanted to meet an even stronger opponent. Bailey, too, was slightly stunned. Yang Dao smiled slightly. At this time, Long Fei walked towards the chains that Big Sis had left behind. Looking at the thick chains on the ground, his brows secretly tightened as he walked along the chains to the edge of the cliff. Beneath the chain was a piece of black iron that was full of rust, more than 1,000,000 pounds. Bailey, too, said, "This deep-sea mystical iron was salvaged from very far away, and since we can't get out, we can only grind it here. But I never thought that this simpleton had already pulled it here. His strength is truly terrifying." Beneath the cliff was a deep, long drag mark that was a few meters deep. One could imagine his strength. Long Fei's heart trembled. This power. Yang Dao smiled faintly and said, "His talent should be the first one to awaken among you all, and also the best in terms of cultivation. There is only one way of thinking about something big and innocent. In his world, there was no shortcut for his cultivation. It was to train arduously, train to death, and with Bailey Tianhai's guidance, he worked even harder. The moment he saw Master Shuang, Long Fei immediately thought of Li Yuanba. Just like Master, Li Yuanba had innate divine strength. However, that time, after the god's design addict Li Yuanba and the foreign demons attacked into another space, they never appeared again. At that time, 3 of them appeared and ate King Kong. In other words, there were 5 Ojra that had yet to awaken in ancient world. "Elder, the sea breeze is too strong. Let's go to the mansion first." Bailey, too, smiled slightly. Yang Dao nodded and said in. At this moment, Bailey, too, looked at Long Fei. Phoenix suddenly transmitted to Long Fei. "There's something inside this deep-sea, mysterious iron." Huh? Long Fei was secretly shocked as he asked Bailey, too, "Master, what do you plan to do with this deep-sea, mysterious black iron?" Bailey, too, laughed bitterly and said, "I had originally planned to break this piece of deep-sea, mysterious iron into pieces and sell it. However, I never thought that this piece of black iron would be so rusty that it wouldn't even meet the requirements to be used in refining, let alone sell it. I saw that Tianhai doing nothing at all every day, so I asked him to fish up dark steel." Bailey, too, was very vexed over this piece of deep-sea dark iron. There was no place to put such a huge piece of black iron. Furthermore, it took a lot of effort to salvage the metal, so it never thought of salvaging a piece of scrap. Long Fei said, I want to try refining recently. Can I get some black iron as materials? Bailey too immediately said, you need materials to forge equipment. My residence has high-quality deep-sea mysterious iron. You can take as many as you want. Long Fei was someone who wanted to enter the ancient antiquity, so he was in no hurry to deal with such a person. Moreover, Long Fei had beaten his son and helped him settle a huge problem. Long Fei wanted something, so he would naturally not be stingy. Long Fei didn't know what was inside the profound iron the Phoenix mentioned, but something that the Phoenix had taken a liking to must be not bad, and said, I am unable to forge high-grade profound iron, so I don't want to waste it. I don't know if I'm suitable for smithing. I just want to give it a try. Yang Dao said, let him handle it alone. City Lord Bailey, let's go drink some tea. Bailey too no longer said anything, and said, all right, little brother, if you need any help, feel free to say it. Long Fei hugged his hands and said, thank you, master. Only Long Fei and Phoenix were left in the training grounds. Long Fei immediately asked, what's inside this black iron? Phoenix pouted and thought for a moment. I don't know, but it should be something good. My treasure detector just detected it. Treasure detector? Long Fei was startled. The Phoenix took out a disc-like object that was glowing with a faint light. There was also a needle which was pointing at the piece of rusted black iron. Phoenix giggled and said, I stole it from my aunt. She was used to find things to play with, and when I sensed it flashing a moment ago, I remembered that there was a treasure detector on my body. Long Fei looked at the plate of treasure detector and checked the system. Looking at the number detected by the system, Long Fei secretly clicked his tongue. My God, ancient holy artifact, ancestor of the treasure hunt. With this, it's impossible to find such a treasure. Item, treasure detector rank, holy artifact range, 1 kilometer description. The treasure detector is made from an ancient heavenly stone and possesses an extremely strong sense for treasures. Anyone who has reached a certain level of cultivation can sense it from within their body, on top of their body, in their cave, or even on top of their rocks. Only when one reaches the level of being able to sense it, then what is the thing inside this black iron? Long Fei was a little impatient. He immediately said, let's go down and take a look. Quickly walking down the cliff on the other side of the martial arts arena, Long Fei stood at the edge of the ocean and looked at the enormous piece of rusted black iron. Quickly walking down the cliff on the other side of the martial arts arena, Long Fei stood at the edge of the ocean and looked at the enormous piece of rusted black iron. There were all kinds of small shells connected to it. If it wasn't for the rust, she wouldn't have thought it was a piece of black iron. Long Fei stood under the gigantic piece of profound iron, looked at the Phoenix, and asked, did you lock into position? Phoenix shook her head and said, treasure detector can only lock onto the correct location and cannot pinpoint the correct location. Wait for the next time I find someone to help it level up. I can still level up? Long Fei said in shock. Phoenix said, of course you can. Ancient world has many divine treasure masters. These people are all specially given to divine treasures to level up. It's just that my treasure detector's grade is a little high. Ordinary divine treasure masters cannot get it. When I return to Phoenix Valley, let Aunt find someone to help me. After saying that, Phoenix's eyes dimmed and her expression tensed up. Long Fei knew that she was thinking of the Master Xian and the Phoenix Valley, and he thought to himself, don't worry, I will definitely bring you back. At the same time, Long Fei changed the topic and said, let's quickly find them. Phoenix was very interested in finding treasures. She immediately forgot her worries and nodded. And the two began to search separately. From the top of the giant black iron tower, only one side could be seen. One couldn't tell its appearance, plus, half of it was still submerged in the seawater. One couldn't tell what exactly it was. However, Long Fei walked around the black iron and found that this giant black iron was like a giant anchor, a three-pronged anchor. If it really is an anchor, then how big is this ship? If the anchor alone weighed 1,000,000 pounds, then the size of the ship, it was hard to imagine. At least, Long Fei couldn't imagine it. What is such a ship for? Noah's Ark? Used to escape from tribulation? Long Fei could not help but think of his previous life's sci-fi film, Doomsday Equals. Who cares what it is used for? Who the hell cares? I'm here for treasure. Calm your mind. Search every corner carefully. Phoenix was holding onto a treasure detector on the other side. It was clearly here. Why couldn't we find it? This broken treasure detector, if it knew earlier, it wouldn't have brought you out. The treasure detector could only determine the approximate location, but it was unable to determine the exact location. Phoenix did not have much patience. Humph. It's no use calling you, it's no use. Phoenix directly smashed the profound iron with the treasure detector. If someone were to see her using the holy artifact like this, they would probably be an idiot. What a lousy piece of sh*t. I won't bring you out next time. Umph. He angrily smashed the treasure detector onto the black iron, both hands on his waist, with an unhappy expression on his face. The treasure detector landed in the crack below the black iron. If it could speak, it would say, "Who did I offend?" Long Fei walked back. Seeing Phoenix's furious look, he smiled and said, "It's treasure-seeking, so you should at least be a bit patient." Seeing the treasure detector deflated, Long Fei said, "A single holy artifact smashed into your hand just like that. If people knew about this, I'm afraid they would have been angered to death by you. Let alone the Sea City. Even the ancient antiquity did not have a holy artifact of this level. Smash it like this? Use it as a hammer?" This was what a phoenix was. If one were to place someone else's words in their bosom, they would only hold them in their arms, afraid of breaking them. Long Fei bent down to pick it up. When he picked it up, he looked up and saw a very special place. It looked like a piece of amber. The orange amber looked like there was a small animal inside. It was very minute and could not recognize what it was. Long Fei was secretly shocked. This is it. There was nothing special about this piece of black iron, except for this one. There must be something strange. Long Fei picked up the treasure detector, and at the same time, pushed his hand towards the amber, wanting to pin it down. The moment his hand touched amber, his spiritual force seemed to have been drained. He directly entered another space, a huge technological space. Why did they say that he was in the technological space? Because there were all kinds of electronic equipment inside. The otherworldly world was forged with the ancient martial arts training, and thus there was no technological equipment. However, all of the equipment here was the technological equipment of a super trap. These technological equipment, all kinds of equipment, seemed to be in the seal stage. Long Fei could only see their electronic equipment. There were also boxes for various weapons. The box also had an electronic lock on it, so it couldn't be opened at all. Long Fei could not tell what they were doing. However, this special space was extremely large. It looked like a large cabin. Right at this moment, Long Fei saw something that made him incomparably excited. Computer! Haha! There's actually a computer. Oh my god! How many years has it been since I've seen a computer? Long Fei almost drooled. Although this was a mental space, Long Fei could truly feel the existence of a computer in front of him. It was at least 10 times bigger than a desktop. Wow, computer. Could it be that the heavens know that my days in this world are a bit boring, so they want to give me a computer that can play games? No need to say anything. Let this old man have a good time first. Long Fei found a power button and pressed it heavily. He was extremely excited in his heart. Computer, there's a computer now. Lousy can also play online games in a foreign world. Even if it's not a game, I can still enjoy solo gaming. Long Fei looked forward to it. The giant computer started up, and a string of codes appeared on the screen. It was a code that Long Fei could not understand at all. He wasn't familiar with programming, but he could guarantee that this wasn't the kind of code that existed on Earth, because he didn't recognize any of the code. Alien product? Fuck, who cares what it is? As long as it's a computer, as long as I can play games. Long Fei no longer had any pursuits. The computer started up extremely quickly. It was at least 1,000 times faster than the computers in his dog kennel on Earth, and it had only been a little more than a second since he pressed the power switch. The screen appeared. Startup success. I can enjoy myself first. Long Fei looked at the icons on the table. His eyes were startled. Damn, why do I not recognize the codes, but do I know all the words under the icons on the table? My computer? Recycle bin? Future player? My file? Same as the computers on Earth. However, the surface of this giant display screen was full of items, and the sight of it would make one's scalp tingle. What future technology? In terms of the power of the black hole in space, four-dimensional space, the creation of heaven and earth, the blueprint for the god-slaughtering spear. Long Fei went to look for them one by one, and he felt very depressed. Your sister? What kind of rubbish is this? Where's the game that lousy wants? A game. What I want is a game. A game. What I want is a game. Can't you still have a good time? Long Fei was furious. Right now, he was just a youth addicted to the internet. Furthermore, he was one of those people who had been deeply poisoned. He just wanted to have a good time, but there was not a single game on the table. Long Fei did not give up. There's no such thing as an online game. There's definitely a game in a single computer. I don't believe that there's no game in a single computer. What kind of computer is a game? After looking around, Long Fei realized that not only was there no online game, there wasn't even a single computer game in the game. Not even a Minesweeper, not even a card game. Damn you. As Long Fei spoke, he wanted to smash the computer. To him, a computer without a game was no different from a piece of scrap. Immediately, Long Fei lost interest in the computer. Holy sh**t. I thought you were blessed by the heavens to give me a computer to play games. I didn't expect you to not even have Hammer Game. Long Fei disdained her as she turned around to leave. But at this moment, Kacha, buzz. A series of electronic sounds rang. A screen appeared on the computer. It was like a paradise on Earth. A giant ship was cruising in the starry sky, with people of all kinds on board, dressed differently. There were also many races on it. There were even beasts, but they were all very harmonious. It was peaceful. After a short half a minute, they suddenly heard a sharp cry, ah. In another place, a huge meteor ball. To be exact, it should be a Dead Star plane, directly smashing towards the giant ship. The speed was indescribably fast. However, a person on the giant ship suddenly flew out. With a flip of his right hand, a long blade appeared. He slightly gathered his strength and slashed out. Boom! The entire Dead Star plane was divided into two. Holy sh**t. Long Fei looked at the scene in shock. This is too awesome, isn't it? A single saber strike to break through the plane? A single slash had split a plane into two. How powerful was this power? Long Fei was so shocked that she couldn't speak. He believed that there was a powerhouse in the universe who could break through planes with one punch, but he never thought that one strike could break through dimensions and this kind of abnormality would appear on the screen in front of him. The man smiled, looked at the separated plane, and was about to put away his long sword. Suddenly, the space between his eyebrows tightened. At the same time, Long Fei's brows also tightened up at the same time. I'll go. Did this F***er encounter a plane swarm? A string of dead stars faced the giant ship, each of them carrying a powerful destructive force. The man's right hand gripped the long saber tightly. His gaze darkened as he suddenly flew away. That blade technique, it could be described as shocking the world and crying the ghosts and gods. He was completely from another two levels of existence. When Long Fei's eyes exploded, he could not even see the image of the man's sword skills clearly. Not only was it fast, the explosive power he unleashed also seemed to carry the power of the entire wild universe. With a single chop of the blade, the Dead Star plane shattered. Another stab, one slash, to pave the way for the great ship. It was a stunning comparison. Even Long Fei was deeply captivated by this scene. However, he was just one of the guards on the ship. Standing on the bow of the ship was a row of people who wore exactly the same clothes as him, just like a royal guard. It was an awe-inspiring scene. The man in front of the giant ship continuously used slay, and the entire group of Dead Star realms were smashed into pieces by him. Those Dead Star realms were like radish cabbages, not enough for him to cut. The tourists on the ship applauded. Suddenly, boom, with an explosive sound, that man in the middle of the Dead Star cluster suddenly fell down from the distance. Upon seeing this, the guards on the bow all rushed out without a word. Bang, bang, bang. In less than half a second, all of them fell. Woo! An incomparably muffled roar rang out. All of a sudden, the resplendent stars were blocked and a huge palm slammed down. That scene was really one that could crush the heavens. From the side of the ship, an old man flew out. He was covered in white bones, white hair, and a white beard. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand like a celestial being. He blocked the attack with a palm strike. Boom! A powerful force exploded and repelled the huge black palm. The shockwave caused the dead stars to shatter into fine powder. How fierce was this power? The elder waved his whisk and said in a heavy voice, "Who is it?" "Well, A loud laugh echoed from the darkness. "Hand over the item, and I'll spare your lives." The old man's eyes became vicious as he shouted, "Impudent!" The person in the darkness was also furious. "Humph! You reckless fool." He exploded forth with his strength. Buzz! A huge black fist directly flew out from the bottom of the ship. Another few elders flew out to heavily block the attack. But, unable to resist, the elders were all sent flying by the powerful force. Each one of them spat out a mouthful of blood with pale faces. The old man holding the horsetail whisk tightened his gaze. The horsetail whisk turned into a flying immortal equipment, carrying him into the darkness. Rays of golden light burst forth from his body as he formed a seal with his hands and muttered an incantation. All of a sudden, his body seemed to have turned into the sun, illuminating the darkness. On the computer screen, there was a picture of Xuana Bai, and in the middle of it all, Long Fei could vaguely see a person. It was more accurate to call him a monster, because there can't be that many people. No matter how big a person was, no giant would be as big as a plane. But the monster on the screen was at least 10 dimensions in size. If it wasn't a monster, then what was it? Long Fei's entire being was in a bad situation. It was also at this time. Boom! The horsetail whisk old man fell down. After smashing through the warship also began to split apart. Suddenly, the old man appeared in front of the screen. "Protect it, protect it. It is the only way to fight against the undying emperor. Protect it. You have to protect it." There are technologies from every plane and advanced martial arts from every plane. You can train in them and use them, but you have to protect them well. A must. Before he could finish his words, the huge sword shattered into pieces and scattered in all directions. It fell into various planes. When the video stopped and he returned to the computer desk, Long Fei was in a bit of a daze. Damn, this is the real F***king fight between gods. I can't believe he's this strong. This is outrageous. This computer turns out to have all sorts of advanced technology. Also advanced martial arts? Wow, I'm rich. Long Fei was about to drool, but suddenly his eyes tensed up. Wait, I almost forgot about the most important matter. This is a computer, a man's computer. Then shouldn't there be some action movies stored somewhere? Haha. Second deficit, minute 5. A computer that didn't even have a game. It was even more impossible to make it have any love movies. A computer that didn't even have a game. It was even more impossible to make it have any love movies. Long Fei tried to look for it, but he was unable to find anything. It was very depressing. I wonder who left this computer here. Isn't it too boring? What the heck is this? No games, no action films. Sigh, this was the first time Long Fei felt that he was so close to a computer, but in the end, it was still useless. To him, a computer without a game was no better than a piece of scrap metal. It was also at this time. He subconsciously heard Phoenix's cry. "Hubby, what's the matter with you? Are you okay?" Long Fei kept the idea and looked at the various documents on the table. He clicked open. There were dozens of cultivation techniques written on it. Long Fei did not have much time to think. Let's take a look at the superpower boxing. He chose one, and then the words on the document started to move like ants, quickly crawling into Long Fei's mind. A series of words appeared in his mind, all sorts of important steps. The system suddenly beeped, ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining superpower boxing. Do you wish to cultivate it? Damn, it's that simple. Long Fei was shocked. Isn't this technology way too advanced? Just choose and stuff it into your head. It's like killing a boss and dropping a piece of equipment. It's so simple that it's a complete mess. The advanced level of this technology is simply unimaginable. What kind of ancient technology and martial arts exist in this world? It was like playing a game. Training skills? He clicked on the skill book. I learned it right away. This kind of operation caused Long Fei's heart to tremble. He thought about the system in his mind and immediately thought, could it be that the system in my mind is from this technology plane? It was Long Fei's first time coming into contact with a technology from another world, and the advanced level of technology was far beyond his imagination. If it really is on the same plane, then Long Fei exhaled deeply in his heart. He had always wanted to figure out the system in his mind, and he needed to do so as well. Otherwise, he would never be at ease for the rest of his life. Ding. System prompt. Do you wish to cultivate? The system was still waiting for Long Fei's orders. Cultivate. Long Fei moved. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for successfully cultivating superpower boxing. Ding. System notification. The compatibility between a player and the superpower boxing is 80%. There is also a degree of compatibility. 80% compatibility means that I can only bring out the power of the superpower boxing to the 8th level. It seems like this fist technique is not perfect enough for me. Long Fei mumbled. What he did not know was that to be able to achieve a compatibility rating of 80% was already an extremely high level. The power displayed was not 80%, but 8 times. A perfect combination of 100% power was even more terrifying. Long Fei did not understand any of this. He also needed a cultivation technique, so he didn't think too much about it. Moreover, there were many kinds of advanced martial arts in this spiritual space, so there was no need to worry. Get out first. Long Fei withdrew his mind energy and returned it back in his body. Phew! Phoenix, who was outside, shouted loudly. Long Fei immediately replied, I'm fine. She said, in the future, I will no longer throw a tantrum. I will no longer throw anything around. Whoa! Long Fei, being unable to move beneath the anchor, made the phoenix jump in fright. In her heart, Long Fei seemed to be his only family. Since her grandfather was dead, she did not want to lose anyone by her side. Moreover, she felt that Long Fei was the person her aunt was looking for. She didn't know why it was Long Fei, but she felt that this man had a lot to do with her. Long Fei still had one hand on the amber and looked at it as he tried to pull it apart. Crack! Amber fell off. Long Fei returned to the space ring S. It was also at this time. The light on the treasure detector stopped flickering and slowly dimmed. Long Fei thought to himself, as expected, it's this piece of amber. A small piece of amber actually hides a world of technology. When I have time, I might be able to find out where the technology came from. Maybe the system is. Long Fei secretly clenched his fists. The current system was different from the previous system. In the past, the system was monitoring his every move and was making things difficult for him. Now, the system could be considered more human-like, and there was even a system girl. It was an entirely intellectual brain, and the feeling it gave Long Fei was one that surpassed all forms of control, an existence that had its own independent consciousness. Even if it did not harm Long Fei, he had to understand. Suddenly, Walala, after the amber was picked out by Long Fei, the gigantic anchor suddenly moved and instantly sank down, pressing on a Long Fei's shoulder. Boom! Long Fei's body instantly bent under the pressure. In that moment, Long Fei felt as if he was going to die. Ah! Phoenix let out a terrified cry. Hubby! Her pupils changed into the pupils of a phoenix. Moreover, phoenix feathers grew from her forehead and were about to change shape. The veins on Long Fei's forehead were trembling. Seeing that the phoenix was about to transform, he immediately said, Bing Bing, don't be rash, stay calm. Once Phoenix went berserk, she would lose control of her body. The Neon City was 1,000,000 kilometers away from here, but those black-clad experts were no ordinary people. That would be dangerous. You idiot. Quick, save them. On the cliff, Bailey Tianhai said heavily. The big guy didn't say anything. He rolled up his right arm and grabbed the chain. Then he forcefully pulled it. It let out a roar. The anchor stopped a little. Long Fei gasped for breath heavily, his body bending slightly, wanting to take the chance to run out. But right at this moment, boom! The anchor sank again. Young master, this anchor has become heavier. With an explosive sound, he pulled the chain up to his waist. At this time, it was as if the muscles on his body were about to burst apart. Releasing his divine power, he dug his legs into the ground. His body leaned backwards as he grabbed onto his mission. Normally, he wouldn't have needed to use so much strength. But now, the weight of the anchor continued to increase. It was like a dead man, and no matter how much you tried to save him, the other sickle of the god of death was just about to drag him into hell. At this moment, the anchor was the dead man, and at the other end was death. Bailey Tianhai frowned. He immediately ran down the chain. After landing on the ground, with both hands on the anchor, he faced Long Fei, who was below the anchor, and said, Quick! Long Fei charged forward with all his might. Bam! Bam! He charged out with all his might. The anchor slid down heavily. If it did not rush out this time, Long Fei would probably be crushed into meat paste. The ground sank and the entire beach sank. How heavy was this? Long Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief and said to Bailey Tianhai, Many thanks. Bailey Tianhai looked indifferent and said, No need to thank me. You are a good opponent. I just don't want to be so bored inside the ancient antiquity. At this moment, Bailey Tianhai's gaze tightened. Crap. He looked towards the top of the cliff. His hair was tied up, and he was still struggling to hold on. Moreover, the chain was tied around his waist. If he didn't remove it in time, his waist would be cut off. You idiot! Bailey Tianhai replied heavily. It seemed like he did not care much for the innocent, and had ordered them around like a servant. However, in Sea City, he was just an innocent friend. The simple-minded man's face was red, and his entire body was black. His waist was constantly being constricted. Now, he could not even breathe. He could only use all of his strength and tightly clench his fists. If it wasn't for his innate divine strength, if it wasn't for the talent of an ancient ability user, his body would have probably been split in half long ago. But even so, the only thing he could do now was to forcefully pull the chain, but he was unable to undo the chain at his waist. The anchor grew heavier. As it slid into the sea, its weight kept increasing. Bailey Tianhai thought anxiously. However, no matter how smart and intelligent he was, there was nothing he could do at a time like this. If he jumped down, he would be cut in half. Oh, Long Fei's heart sank. Ancient dragon body. The aura on his body suddenly changed. With both hands, he pulled on the chain. With a fierce roar, the clothes on his shoulder were immediately torn apart by Long Fei's muscles. Bailey Tianhai was shocked. What astonishing power! Long Fei said strenuously, Be quick with your words. Even if he used the power of the ancient dragon body, but he felt that this anchor wasn't falling down at all, but was instead being sucked in by a powerful force. This power, it should be that destructive power. Long Fei took the amber, and the anchor was about to be destroyed. It exists just to get people to find amber. Now that amber had it, it had to be destroyed. No one could stop him. This was also the reason why Long Fei's ancient dragon body could not be stopped. Bailey Tianhai immediately shouted, You idiot, jump down. Now that Long Fei had pulled him, Big Sis jumped down from the high ground and took advantage of the situation to untie the chain. This was the only way. He didn't think too much about it. He did not need to bring a brain with Bailey T on high. He jumped down from the cliff with the intention of unlocking the shackles in the air. However, the anchor was getting heavier, and so was the chain. When Dahan jumped up into the air, the chain sank down, and he fell down. He had no time to undo the chain. Bam! He hit the ground heavily. His big, silly body jolted. It crashed to the ground. And at the same time he jumped down, the anchor increased even more. Long Fei was simply unable to grab hold of it. The chain slashed across his palm. His palms were lacerated. This made Long Fei feel extremely unhappy. Bailey Tianhai's eyes tensed up and anxiously ran forward. The simple-minded man waved his hand and said, I'm fine, I'm fine. Holy sh*T. He's that abnormal? Long Fei was greatly shocked in his heart. If this was anyone else, they would have already been dead. This guy, unexpectedly, nothing had happened. A natural tank. The skin and flesh of his body is probably even stronger than the defense of those divine beasts, right? Long Fei's blood started to boil. If a tank like this was able to block out damage in the game, the damage output would be too great, and he wouldn't have to worry about that at all. What was a talent? Such a tank was a talent. Dahan struggled to get up and said, The chain is getting heavier. What's going on? It was the same as before. The simple-minded couldn't move at all. Damn you, Long Fei replied heavily. I'm not going to go crazy. Do you think I'm a sick cat? The idea sank. Long Fei said to Deji, Hold on, I'm going to break this chain. Breaking the chains was the only way. If they did not break the anchor, then the ship's anchor would destroy him along with the ship. Bailey T on high was startled. You want to break the chains? This chain is made of black iron, and it's not just normal black iron. Even the best blacksmith in Sea City cannot forge it. It looked rusty, but its material was beyond ordinary black iron. Bailey too didn't know, but he understood clearly in his heart. He had studied this chain before. Normal blacksmiths wouldn't be able to forge it. It was good to grill it with flames. Even a heavy hammer wouldn't do. There was no end to it. Now, Long Fei wanted to use his hands to blast it apart. This was impossible. At least, Bailey Tian Hai thought that it was impossible. Since he was a four-brain genius, he already thought it was impossible. That Long Fei didn't have any hope at all. However, Long Fei had only voiced out his thoughts. He did not want to get Bailey Tianhai's consent, because there was simply too late. Huff! Long Fei suddenly retreated half a step, gently exhaled, and sank into his horse's stance. At this moment, the key details of the superpower boxing kept popping up in his mind, and he paid attention to every single detail. Glancing at the stubborn and foolish girl, Long Fei shouted, I'm going to punch. Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. Superpower boxing. Long Fei roared in his heart and threw out a punch. Buzz. Rumble. The fist landed on the chain, causing it to sink and bend down. The entire chain shook, and the simpleton fell to the ground. The chain fell down even faster and crazily into the sea. Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. He was scared stiff by Long Fei's power. Such a thick chain was actually bent by the explosion. It had to be known that he had tried many different methods, but to actually break it with a single punch, this was a huge blow to his heart. Interesting. Bailey Tianhai was not depressed by this kind of blow. Instead, he became even more excited. Long Fei's heart tensed up. Similarly, he was also shocked by the power of the superpower boxing. Damn, so fierce. What a profound martial art. I did not use the power of the ancient dragon body just now. Long Fei exhaled. Another punch. There was no time. The chain kept dragging down, not delaying even a second. Ancient dragon body. Buzz. Strength King. Long Fei roared in his heart, and then smashed down with his fist. It smashed against the chain. Boom! 100 miles away, the waves were violent. They were like a huge fountain that sprayed out water, creating huge waves that were dozens of feet in length. They were rolling about nonstop. The entire beach suddenly caved in. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The entire sea city shook violently. City Lord's mansion Bailey, too, suddenly stood up. What happened? Was it an earthquake? The tremors were too intense. Yang Dao also frowned and thought, what a strong power. Could it be that there are super powerhouse S in Sea City? All sorts of panic filled the manor as they were shocked by the violent tremors. An earthquake by the sea was extremely dangerous. If there was a tsunami, the entire Sea City would be destroyed. It was just that the previous earthquake had stopped. Bailey Two's heart also relaxed a little. A butler quickly walked in. Bailey Two quickly asked, what happened? The butler replied, the surface of the sea is stable. There aren't too many ripples, nor is there a retreat of water. There shouldn't be a tsunami. However, I saw a violent wave at the back cliff of the training grounds. Bailey Two asked, where's Tian Hai? Young master went to the back cliff, said the butler. Bailey Two was immediately enraged. Bastard, it must be him doing something. He wants to go to the ancient antiquity. Why can't I stop worrying? Elder Yang, this son of mine is really mischievous. I'll trouble you to take care of him once he arrives at ancient antiquity. While talking, Bailey Two shot a glance at the butler. The butler looked out the door. Immediately, a servant walked in with a tray in both hands. On the tray, there were holy source stones. Sword type holy source stone. Bailey Two said, I know that Elder Yang is a sword cultivator. These holy source stones are very helpful to sword cultivators. I hope that Elder can accept them. These holy source stones were worth quite a bit. However, in order for his son to be better off in ancient antiquity and be taken care of, as his father, he was willing to give it his all. Moreover, he felt guilt towards Tian Hai and had never cared for him in such a way since he was a child. He was very worried about leaving now. Yang Dao said, Mayor, you worry too much. I will take good care of all the disciples that I recruit into the ancient antiquity. Quickly take these things back. It's getting late. Let's go to the back cliff and take a look. It's time to take them to the sect to report. Sword Holy Source Stone? These stones. Only the lowest level of existence. Yang Dao did not even glance at the door as they walked in. It was not that he did not like it, but it was because he really did not like it. Bailey Two could tell that Yang Dao did not really like these holy source stones, but this was something that he could take out to the maximum. Laughed. Even if I do not take care of him, some of the elders in the sect will definitely take care of him. Martial power is very important, but brain is also very important. Your son will definitely be given more importance in the ancient antiquity. You do not have to worry about that. Bailey Two looked at the holy source stones. Yang Dao said, all right, I will accept these holy source stones. If he did not accept it, Bailey Two might not be at ease. Bailey Two was a person from a small place, so he saw things as simple. After receiving the gift, even if he did not take care of his son, he would still be of help. Seeing the holy source stones in Yang Dao's hands, Bailey Two finally relaxed and said, all right, let's go to the back cliff and take a look. What kind of tricks is that bastard up to now? Beneath the cliff, Long Fei gasped for breath. Lying on the beach, looking at the blue sky, he swallowed hard. So dangerous. The simple-minded man was also breathing heavily. His face was still flushed. He had just been scared to death. As Bailey Tian Hai sat on the beach, his forehead was also dripping with cold sweat. The chain broke. The huge anchor slid into the bottom of the sea, causing the entire sea to shake. Not to mention salvaging, they might not even be able to find it now. If Long Fei did not break the chain just now, he would definitely have been dragged into the ocean. Bailey Tian Hai was secretly shocked in his heart. He looked at Long Fei and said indifferently, thank you. He had never said this word before in his life. However, he knew that if not for Long Fei, Yu Shuang would already be dead. The simple-minded person also said, thank you. Long Fei dispiritedly waved his hand and said, what are you thanking me for? It's also to help me. The one who should be thanking me. Phoenix giggled and said, the three of you are really funny. You all said thank you, so why not become sworn brothers? You also have your own care in ancient antiquity. Bailey Tian Hai said, I think this suggestion is good. The simpleton said, all right. Long Fei looked at the Phoenix. Phoenix giggled and her eyes moved slightly. Long Fei knew that the phoenix must have known of Bailey Tianhai's and Yu Shuang's inherent skills, which was why they had become sworn brothers. Long Fei said, "Then sworn brother." The three of them walked together. Long Fei asked, "What procedures do you have to become sworn brothers?" Bailey Tianhai replied, "I don't understand." He shook his head like a rattle drum. Long Fei said, "Then let's go according to my hometown. I Long Fei. I Bailey Tianhai. I Zhao Dahan. Three sworn brothers of the opposite sex. The sky above, the sea is proof. Do not seek the same year and the same month and the same month to live, but the same month and the same day to die." Finished. The three of them knelt on the ground and heavily kowtowed. After that, the three of them stood up and Long Fei laughed. "It would be even better if there was wine." Bailey Tianhai was excited. He had never sworn brothers with anyone before, and was even more unaware of what it was like to be sworn brothers with someone, especially after hearing what Long Fei had said. It was too exciting. "We don't want to be born on the same day of the same year, but we hope to die on the same day of the same month of the same year and be brothers for the rest of our lives." He was even more excited. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei and said, "In the future, you will be the big brother, and I will be number two." The simple-minded man nodded heavily. The two looked at Long Fei and said, "Big brother." Phoenix giggled. Long Fei said, "Second brother, third brother." It was very simple to become sworn brothers. Long Fei was also a little excited in his heart. This was also the first time he had become sworn brothers with someone. "Bastard, what are you guys doing down there? Why aren't you coming up? On the cliff?" Bailey, too, replied heavily. Bailey Tianhai said somewhat helplessly, "I heard it." Bailey, too, looked at the mess at the bottom of the cliff. His eyes shivered. "Where is that piece of gigantic black iron?" "That's weird. I spent a few years to salvage that place. Why is it gone?" Yang Dao also noticed it. There were clear scratches all around, and there were a few deep footprints on the martial arts arena. So something must have happened here, just now. Long Fei said in a low voice, "Don't tell anyone about what happened just now." Bailey Tianhai immediately nodded. It was also at this time. Long Fei looked at the broken chain, and his heart tightened. This chain is no longer an ordinary chain. He picked up the chain. Although it only contained a few sections, it was incredibly heavy. "Keep it first. It will definitely be useful in the future." He placed the chain on the space ring. At the same time, the system beeped. "Ding! You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.